Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and we are here for the build-up show for Clash in Paris. We've got a whole lot of content coming your way tonight for Clash in Paris. I say tonight, it's still bright out here in Europe, so it means it's a long old day for us here. We had a little bit of a technical glitch just before we went on the air, so apologies if you followed the original link, but you found us now, and it's time to get down and dirty when it comes to the Clash in Paris preview.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, once again, guys, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, let me explain what we're doing. This is the build-up show. We get you guys and us hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. Of course, today it is Clash in Paris, coming to you live from Paris. Of course, Lynette says, good morning, Scott. Lynette, always good to see you in the comments. Hope you're doing well. It's afternoon for me. We're a few hours away from Clash in Paris. And again, as we've been saying throughout this week, it's much easier for us in Europe when we have these European shows, right, to cover them in depth. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to break down all the last minute rumors and stuff like that. We'll also play some clips from earlier streams from this week as well, such as our Raw review, our SmackDown review, and our Weekend Kickoff show as well. And later on, Lucas will be joining us for the live portion of the build-up. So before we get there, though, let's talk about the card. Big card here. The sixth match added, of course. Very shocking that we have 6 matches in the first place. But the White Six are going to be facing off against the Street Profits, defending their tag team championships. Of course, the SmackDown tag division has really heated up recently. And this is a great example of that. I did think it was going to be Mello Don't Miz, but no, it ended up being the Street Profits getting that opportunity. Another match we're going to see on tonight's card is one that I think is going to be what a lot of people are going to want to predict the most, right? So we're talking Fatal 4-Way, we're talking CM Punk, of course, we're talking LA Knight, and we are talking Jey Uso, and of course the champion Seth freaking Rollins as well. We also are going to see Becky Lynch taking on Nikki Bella, of course. Becky Lynch, the Intercontinental Champion. What else do we have going on here tonight? Lynette says, I think I'm going for White Six in this one. Me too, Lynette. I really do think it's probably going to be the White Six that pick up the victory here as well. We've got the owner of the Schulafala taking on the owner of the, I forgot what the real one's called now. Anyway, the point Ulafala is going to be Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed. What else do we have? Let me just see if I can get the card back up here. Just had a little technical glitch in the background there. John Cena, of course, versus Logan Paul. That's going to be a big one. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. That's going to be one that I think, of course, there's no title on the line, but I think it's going to give us a lot of the big stories coming out of the PLE. Potentially a return again from Brock Lesnar. We've got Rusev facing off, of course, against Sheamus as well. And is there another women's match? I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's another one. I don't think there is. So, yeah, the Fatal 4-Way, Cena versus Logan Paul, Rusev versus Sheamus. We've got Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns, Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch, and the tag team titles again on the line, as we mentioned earlier on as well. Lynette says, I heard that Brock Lesnar is supposed to be there tonight. I would be surprised if he didn't show up. But then again, it would be the exact same thing we saw a little while back, right? So that'd be a bit kind of anticlimactic in a way. So maybe it wouldn't be exactly the same. But yeah, I kind of got a feeling that Brock Lesnar is going to show up tonight as well. If not, it'll be, I guess, on Monday night, or SmackDown, I should say, leading towards WrestlePalooza, of course, on September the 20th. But that's the card we've got. I want to know what you guys think is going to happen tonight. I'm looking forward to the show itself. I hope you are as well. Now, when this was announced, it was really exciting at the time, and the thing that really kind of got me really excited about was the fact that the venue itself It's said to be a really cool one. It's it's the largest indoor arena in I think in the world actually. They can get something ridiculous like 40 odd thousand people in there. I don't think that's what they expect tonight. I mean, that's more so for concerts and stuff like that. But it is a very interesting setup. Now there are pictures going around online of what the stage looks like. We'll talk about that later on as well. But first of all, I'm going to throw over to when the show got announced, essentially, my original thoughts on it, because I did a lot of research diving into what the actual venue was going to be like. So, without further ado, here's me from a little while back talking about the details surrounding the venue, because it might give you an idea as to what WWE can do tonight as far as making this a spectacular event. Decided to go with Paris because it is a capital city. It's a city that doesn't really need the WWE right now. These days, a lot of WWE events seem to get, they're bidded for essentially, and it's why it feels like WrestleMania and SummerSlam in London hasn't really happened. One of the reasons, at least, and of course, Clash, as we say, the first one went to Cardiff. It was a big shock for people. People didn't understand, why it wasn't linking up with Wembley and the 30th anniversary at the time of Wembley SummerSlam 1992, but they didn't. They went to Cardiff. I had a great time, and it did exactly that. It brought people to Cardiff that might not have gone there before, and really showed them what the city's all about. And again, I'm excited to go back someday. I enjoyed it so much. Then with Glasgow, of course. And don't get me wrong; these are big cities in the UK, but it's drawing eyes away from where the obvious one, which would be London. Now, when they did come to London, they did Money in the Bank. Again, we were privileged enough to be in attendance and cover it on this channel. But of course, it was a much smaller affair. It was the O2 Arena. Now, they've decided to go here with this Clash event in a arena again, but one that is more on par with, I guess, the size of the first Clash event. We talked a moment ago of how it was in Cardiff, of course, at the Principality Stadium. This time round, though, it's indoor. Now, will that affect kind of the grandeur, I guess, if you will, of Clash? I don't think so, because as the quote said just a moment ago, it is it is the biggest indoor venue in the world. Now, let's talk a little bit about just how big it is and what WWE can do when it comes to taking advantage of that fact as well. So this is the website for Paris La Défense Arena, and some really interesting notes on here. Now, they say they can hold up to 40,000 spectators. Now, a little disclaimer for that. That is specifically for concerts. Now, of course, with the concerts, you're going to have the floor of the arena used up by fans, essentially. You don't get that with WWE event. You do for the most part, of course, but like you've seen boxing as well, of course, it's going to take up a little bit of room in the middle. And of course, WWE got a big old stage, but we're going to come to that in a moment, because there's an interesting note as far as the setup goes to this arena as well, and how WWE can use it to their advantage. You can see a little bit of a hint here, but there's a big old screen on the right-hand side there. But 40,000 is what it can reach. I would imagine they're going to be aiming for 30 to 35,000, which is still going to be incredible. I think Clash itself, the first one in Cardiff, was about 44,000, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, gonna be somewhat similar, or has the potential to be. And of course, without the open elements of a stadium, you're not only trying your best to combat weather, you're also doing well to keep that sound within as well. And I'm sure that decibel meter they used at Backlash will get a use here as well, and I'm sure the fans are going to be rocking and ready for this one. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but as you can see, it can be adapted, this venue. Predominantly, it's a rugby venue. It's been set up by for the rugby club there to essentially host home games. But of course, as we've just mentioned, it's been used for concerts and things like that. You can go down to 15 or 20,000 spectator venue as well if you want to bring kind of different kind of elements within the stadium, but the arena, I should say. But I'm sure, like I say, WWE are likely to take advantage of what's there. Now, what is there? Let's talk a little bit about that. Cutting edge technology, as you can see, and it's immersive experience. Now, you can see there it's set up for a rugby match, but at the back, you've got this huge screen. And as you can see, it's the largest interactive screen in the world with innovative technology. 14,000 square meters, the equivalent, apparently, of 7 tennis courts. So that's quite big, isn't it? Powered by 48 video projectors, our in-house screen brings you closer to the show. Now, you can imagine WWE going to take advantage of this. Now, they always have big old screens, and that's kind of how their setup has looked for some time, since the HD era, really. But what they can really do here is take advantage of what's already in-house, kind of like they did with SoFi, of course. You have that big screen that wraps around the top of the stadium itself, which is incredible technology. This is another great example of WWE being able to do something like that as well. Now, also, you've got here, you can see the lighting that we've got at this arena in Paris as well. 266 extraordinary as they say, LED projectors, which offer a lighting power of 1,800 lux, or 3 times the light of a surgeon's table. These are some strange comparisons they're making there, but hey, it tells us it's big, right? And it's shiny, and it's bright, and it's exciting, and that's what WWE are going to be doing here. Surely look to take advantage of these facilities that this incredible venue seem to have. Now, I've seen some videos online of what it does look like at events. Look them up yourself. The arena, of course, are kind of bigging themselves up there, but there are some great videos of concerts out there as well. We can get a bit of an idea of what it would be like, because of course everybody thinks of Backlash in France last year. And the first thing that springs to mind for most, I'm sure, is AJ Styles getting the phenomenal song, and also Jey Uso's entrance. Now, Jey Uso's entrance is something I want to touch on here, because you saw there, the lighting arrangement alone is going to be a spectacle. Now, you had the screens in, and you had those rowdy French fans, and then international fans who I'm sure will be traveling to the show as well. It is going to be, in my opinion, surely one of the most kind of fan interactive events that we've seen in the recent kind of era. Now, again, while WWE do continue to go internationally, we're seeing more and more these fan bases kind of come out and really just show their love essentially for the product and for WWE and the talents there as well, including unique songs and chants and stuff like that. Of course, it's always been the same when they come over here to the UK as well, and again, privileged enough to be in many of those crowds. But really looking forward to seeing how it goes down in Paris, and who knows, maybe we'll get a bit of content over there as well. Now, I'd say the features are surely one of the biggest drawing points for this arena and for Paris as a whole. Again, interesting that they've gone with a capital city. Now, Paris, of course, recently hosted the Olympic Games. Now, a big part of that was a bit of a problem was the rain. If you remember the Summer Olympics, rain here in Europe, who guessed, it does happen. And you might remember those scenes of the River Seine and stuff like that really kind of taking a battering essentially. But that's the good thing about this being in a venue that's indoors, right? It means they do have the ability to work around issues when it comes to weather and stuff like that. Now, as we mentioned a moment ago, it's not just Clash in the Castle coming to Paris. It will also host Monday Night Raw in the same venue. Be interesting to see how they do that. I assume it's going to be double tickets, packages and stuff like that to pad out Raw as much as they can. Now, of course, when WWE came to the O2 Arena for Money in the Bank, they did it in reverse. It was SmackDown and the PLE itself, Money in the Bank. But SmackDown, of course, can sell well anyway in a venue that size, but to sell out a Raw this size is going to be interesting. So will they keep the same setup? Will they try and force double tickets more than solo tickets in order to kind of get attendance basically the same on both nights? It'll be interesting to see what they do there. Going back to the name itself, though, of course, Clash in Paris. And again, you can see with the logo there, nice little Eiffel Tower in the middle. They've, of course, kept the Clash at the Castle name, but tweaked it. Now, Clash has a bit of history in wrestling anyway, with Clash at Clash of Champions. There we go. That was a bit confusing. I was Night of Champions. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. And their hashtag in recent years for these events have just simply often been WWE Clash. So they can do the same here anyway. They don't really need the castle, but it's strange because I remember on this very channel, myself and Lucas were talking before about how they can use that name in quite a lot of places in Europe with kind of a monarchy history and castles still knocking around, right? France being one. So interesting that they've, I guess, gone to the heart of France here with Paris itself, and they've just decided to drop the castle gimmick. Now, the awkward thing is, at the moment at least, if you Google Clash in Paris or YouTube it or anything like that, most of the results are clashes between rival football fans or at international football events there, or demonstrations and things like that going a little bit and clashes with police and stuff like that. So I do wonder if this is a little bit of CEO magic coming along, where words like Clash and Paris being put together will be much nicer results for the city of Paris, internationally speaking. So I'm not sure if that's part of it. Hey, I don't want to get all conspiracy with this here, but we've seen examples of companies and kind of governments doing this sort of thing in the past. But like, I'm not saying they've kind of jump through a million hoops here to call it Clash in Paris. Like, it's fine. It does make sense. It tells you where it is. And often the name of where the PLE is at is heavily featured in these international events anyway. Bash in Berlin maybe could have been Clash in Berlin, but I guess the was what they were going for there. Now, as I say, huge news. Be really interested to hear what you guys think of this PLE. Again, if it's anything like Backlash in Lyon, it's going to be incredible as far as fan interaction. I think it's something that WWE needs to be really careful of, though, with these international PLEs, and we've talked about quite a lot on the channel, is not kind of making it a glorified house show in some ways, and kind of overly relying on the rabid fan base who are going, this is the first time here, we're going to just appreciate anything that we get. I think there needs to be real storyline progression on these shows. There were a few last year, including Backlash in France, as much as I enjoyed the show, where, if we're honest, like, not a lot happened, So it would be nice to kind of get a bit of storyline progression there instead. But hey, once again, let me know your thoughts on Clash in Paris in the comments. It's going to be a bit more of a reasonable time for us, even if we don't attend. Watching is going to be a little bit more comfortable for us Europeans, right? So now I'd imagine Americans are getting a little bit more used to the different time zones as far as watching WWE PLEs from overseas. So surely enough kind of data has been out there for WWE to really double down on this and see that it's fine and they're getting enough viewership in the States, whether live or on demand. Of course, the Netflix deal is going to make a big difference internationally. WWE, of course, still part of Peacock in the States. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes as far as viewership. It's a weekend PLE, of course, as you would expect. But again, the show is now going to take place on a Sunday. Now, I'm not sure if that would have been WWE's kind of ideal. I think surely they would have liked to have done a Saturday night, because if then Americans are staying up late or anything like that, or getting up early, I'm not quite sure what time it'll be there. They'd have Sunday to relax, right? But no, they're going to have to go to work on Monday if you're doing a regular 9 to 5. So I wonder if it was just a scheduling clash or something like that. Hey, clash. But either way, it's going to be a Sunday PLE, so that's going to be strange. Feels a bit old school, that, doesn't it? Might as well call it a pay-per-view while we're at it. But I'm sure, as I say, it's going to be a good one, and we are going to cover it in depth on this channel as much as we can. All right, and that's exactly what we're doing here with the build-up show, of course. Again, that clip's from a few months ago, and really just wanted to kind of highlight again the kind of incredible features that the venue has. Again, there are pictures going around online. We'll see if we can get one of those on air in a bit, of what the stage actually looks like. There's the Eiffel Tower in the middle. The screen is curved, so it does look like they're going all out as far as production goes, and I really am glad to see that. A lot of people are kind of moaning these days about how the stages always look the same except for WrestleMania. It's not going to be the case with Clash. It's going to look very different. Let's talk about some of these matches, though. Again, Street Profits, just a recap, are going to be looking to reclaim their tag team gold off of the White Six. Also tonight, John Cena facing off against Logan Paul. I want to hear your thoughts, particularly on matches like this one. Let me know what you think is going to happen tonight in the comments. Fatal 4-Way match, again, I think this is the one that's going to split a lot of people. For me, I got a little spoiler for you. I think it's Seth Rollins. I think it's too simple, really. Seth Rollins, LA Knight, CM Punk, Jey Uso. But technically speaking, there are 3 people in there with just a chance. Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed is happening tonight, as well as is the Intercontinental title being on the line in the women's division, as Nikki Bella tries to claim it from the hands of Becky Lynch for the first time. And then also tonight, a man who's got history in these matches, these matches as well as the Donnybrook, but also in the show itself, Clash. Sheamus, of course, going up against his former friend Rusev, who had some pretty harsh comments about him the other day as well. Gary's in the house, so Cena should win. Better not be. Logan, always good seeing Gary. Hope you're doing well, mate. Thanks for popping in. Look, I think tonight's match is going to be interesting when it comes to Cena and Logan, because it's not what people would expect. I think people, maybe thought Cena would still be sniffing around the title picture after losing it or something like that. But at the same time, I do also recognize that people probably also expected to see Logan Paul versus John Cena at some point. So in that sense, it kind of does make sense. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what they do with it tonight. Again, quite a few matches on the card. There's 6 this time around. There's usually only 5 in these PLEs these days, so that's quite nice to see that there is going to be a bit of a difference there. But yeah, let me know what you think of tonight's show, what you think of the card overall. Again, what match are you most looking forward to? I think, if I'm honest, I think the title match is the one that is probably going to is usually the most intriguing anyway. This is the match where people are going to be, hoping for a title change or something like that. I honestly don't think it's going to happen. Because, again, Seth Rollins has only just won the title. But yeah, I could be wrong. But it was such a big moment, wasn't it? So doesn't really make sense for me to take the belt off of him, to give it to CM Punk. Again, yeah, you can say, look, CM Punk only had it for a little bit himself anyway. But yeah, I don't really see it. I think the most likely thing we're going to get here is Seth Rollins winning. When it comes to the Logan Paul John Cena match, as far as a winner goes, look, I'm going for John Cena, and maybe to get attacked by Brock Lesnar at the end. I know a lot of people are thinking that Brock Lesnar might show up tonight. I think the only issue for me would be that it's the same old thing. He showed up literally at the last, at the end of the last PLE, and that didn't really go anywhere. After that, he's only been seen at that PLE. He's not actually shown up since. So will we see a Brock Lesnar return tonight? And if we do, is it going to be the exact same thing we saw at the end of SummerSlam? And it looks like it is going towards WrestlePalooza, don't get me wrong, but for me, I'm just not really sure if we need the exact same thing that we saw again just a little while ago. It doesn't really make sense to me. So let's talk a little bit about how this week has been shaping up. Of course, it's been a week of European shows. We've had Raw in Europe, we've had SmackDown in Europe, we've had 2 SmackDowns actually so far, and then of course Raw will be coming to you live from Paris on Monday as well. But I enjoyed both go-home shows. I think they were pretty decent. I think the pacing on them is a little bit off at the moment, and it's a little bit hard to compare when you do have a 3-hour show in Raw and a 2-hour show in SmackDown, and also presented differently as well, because SmackDown isn't nationally on Netflix, but Raw is only outside the US, but Raw is everywhere in the US. So they kind of have different kind of ways they're produced, and then also timing wise, as I say. But this time around, Raw was only 2.5 hours, so it was a little bit more palatable for me. If you've been with us on the channel before, I'm not really a fan of the 3-hour shows, but I did enjoy the show overall. So what we're going to do now is throw it over to my original thoughts on Monday Night Raw. You'll see it was a bit of a chaotic ending to the show, and but a fun show overall. Now, I want to know your comments down below. I'm going to be lurking around in the background. Don't you worry. I'm still going to be here while we play this replay, and I'm going to be replying to your comments in the comment section itself. And then come time to be live again, I'll be back here, and we'll basically go through all of the big kind of comments, all my favorite comments essentially from this as well. So what we'll do now is we'll throw it over to our Monday Night Raw review. Again, we're still going to be here lurking in the background, and we'll be coming live once again straight after this. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and I'm joining you on a Monday night from England to talk about a show that took place in England tonight, Monday Night Raw, of course, at a reasonable time. So it meant we got to do a watch-along experience. Thank you to everyone that tuned in live for that. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in for this portion of the show, of course, the instant reaction review. And we appreciate those joining on demand as well. Let us know what you thought of the show. I want to hear your comments in this show as well. We're going to talk about the kind of hits, the misses, if you will, as well, from a kind of busy Monday Night Raw in Birmingham. But again, I want to know what you thought of the show overall as we start to break it down segment by segment and moment by moment on this review. Overall, guys, I thought it was a fun show. I don't think it was, I guess, spectacular in the second half. It did kind of drag almost, but then weirdly enough ended 30 minutes earlier than we expected. Of course, Monday Night Raw these days it tends to be a 3-hour show. The show run at about 2 hours 35, so a very, very different time frame for Monday Night Raw. And I think maybe if I knew that, it might not have felt like it was dragging as much, because I would have known there was light at the end of the tunnel, essentially. That sounds like I didn't enjoy Raw. I did enjoy Raw. It's just, I always say, and I've said it time and time again, you guys will know if you've been with us before, I'm not the biggest fan of Raw being 3 hours long. That being said, as I say, it was a enjoyable show. Let's get into the big kind of stories to come out of it, though. Again, thank you to everyone that joined us on the show earlier on, but you're now watching the instant reaction review of Monday Night Raw. Let's get into it, though, guys. Let's start with what we opened the show with, of course, which was, as advertised, Roman Reigns making his way to the ring and basically apparently being advertised as to come and explain why he's done what he's done recently and looking after his cousin Jey Uso, which I kind of thought was, well, okay, that's obvious. It's his cousin, and I'm a good guy now, and so is he. But it kind of moved away from that. Bronson Reed came out with Paul Heyman, had a really, really fun segment. If I'm honest, I really, really enjoyed this. It was a great way to open the show. The fans in Birmingham were, as expected, on fire. Really, really seemed to enjoy the night themselves, as we did on the watch along, of course. But I can imagine what the atmosphere would have been like in the arena itself. So credit to the fans there. Some great songs in this one. The typical daddy daddy cool that you get over in Europe these days in the name of Roman Reigns. And yeah, of course, we had, as I say, Bronson Reed coming out with a shooter filer and really dropping some great lines himself on Roman as well. But a really, really enjoyable opening segment. The typical stuff from Paul Heyman, all that kind of stuff, and then healing it up, not wanting the orders to kind of say it along with him. But then you got Roman Reigns showing a different side of him, like a really kind of almost emotional, happy, positive, but then kind of sad side at the same time, at kind of feeling guilty almost about kind of his past. Like he's all of a sudden really started to show appreciation for Jey Uso and for his fans, and but also talk about, you know, how he's a changed man and he's lost things in his life. You know, he's lost his wise man, he's lost his bloodline, he's lost his titles as well. So quite an interesting opener as far as, you know, Roman Reigns' storyline progression and character progression goes as well. So quite I guess a notable one in that sense as well. That's how we opened it up, and again, I thought it was coming thick and heavy, man. It was a good start to the show. Actually really did enjoy it. Aiden's popping out, got to go to college tomorrow. No worry, Aiden, thank you so much for tuning in and watching along with us on the show as well. Appreciate everyone that's been with us, where we've been commenting or lurking in the background. We appreciate it. If you're still live though, let me know what you do think of Monday Night Raw, and did you think it was a good show overall? And again, Aiden, we'll see you on the next stream, buddy. We're going to be back, of course, on Friday night for a stream of SmackDown coming to you live from Leon. Well, I'm not in Leon, but I'll be live as well. But yeah, let's dive into Monday Night Raw in more detail. As I say, started out, in my opinion, with a really, really fun opening segment with Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed. First match we get into, though, it was, I'm trying to remember now, what was it? Let me see if I can get to some notes here. It was, oh no, we had backstage, didn't we? At A-Night talking about how he thought CM Punk did push him. That plays into the main event. We'll get to that later on, of course, as well. We just saw how the show closed with loads of shenanigans. Quick comment here from Aiden as far as rating the show. Gives it an 8 out of 10. Only marked it down because of the Netflix glitches. So not really about the content itself, but I appreciate what you mean. It did have some weird glitches, didn't it? For those that aren't familiar, maybe didn't have it on their end. Well, I actually feel like it was probably a global thing. I think, it was in the opening match, I believe. There was slow motion, basically, footage. Audio went, and then it kind of caught up. Later on, there was a bit where they went to the ads. They said it was a 9-minute ad break. It went about 6, and then it in that replayed the same segment again of the New Day chatting. For us in the UK, where we aren't seeing ads, we're seeing kind of bonus content, essentially. They played that twice. They played the kind of promos that they had delivered about that night twice. And then all of a sudden it kind of caught back up and you could press live and it jumped ahead to Becky Lynch already been in the ring. It really kind of took us out of the moment. I think a lot of us was taken by surprise and we did fall behind, as Aiden says. Aiden was watching live and thankfully sent me a message and said, look, it's not live for me anymore. And I realized mine was the same and we caught up. But look, let's focus on the positives. The next week's thing was kind of annoying. Don't get me wrong. It did take away from the show a little bit, but the show itself was really cool. What did we start out with? I swear it was the Dragon Lee match was first, right? Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough. I thought it was a really, really good match. I'm just trying to find my notes here. See if I can get to where we are. Was it Dragon Lee and JD McDonough? Yeah, it was. Fantastic match, by the way, guys. This one wasn't actually advertised ahead of time. This wasn't kind of in the preview that they put up for Monday Night Raw on WWE.com. So I looked distracted there because Aiden, again, having a dig at the Dublin crowd. Wasn't the biggest fan there. I think Birmingham were maybe better, but I think the Dublin crowd was still good. Dom wasn't in the correct position. You're right. Yeah, it was that really weird point, wasn't it, where backstage, the Judgment Day were chatting, and Dom ran behind to get into position to chat to El Grande Americano. Really weird. Again, I said it on the stream earlier on. Who was that? Because sometimes that plays into it, right? You see someone lurking in the background. We saw it with Asuka. We saw it with Kairi Sane on the segment between Io and Rhea, which we'll talk about later on. I thought, was that the same here? But Aiden was watching live with me. Aiden went back and said, no, it was Dom. It looked like Dom just wasn't in the right position. Very, very strange. I wonder if people kind of caught onto that online. But sticking with the Judgment Day, as I say, opened up with a fantastic match. Really, really enjoyable. These guys kind of left it all out there. Match of the night for me. 100% match of the night. Really, really good. Already the best thing I've seen on this European tour. There's been some fun segments and fun moments, great lines and decent matches. But this one basically took it to another level. A really, really enjoyable match. Dragon Lee wins by pinfall by hitting the Operation Dragon. JD kind of course, had a little bit of help from Dominic Mysterio, but AJ Styles, the kind of enemy of a lifetime, really chases you over the sea and catches you no matter where you are. And he did the same thing here with Dominic Mysterio and trying to take him out, which sets up a match later on, which we'll get to very soon. Again, we mentioned earlier on, though, LA Knight is a little bit upset about CM Punk. That will play into it later. Coming back from commercial break, we get a Rusev video package where he talks about how he wants to hurt Sheamus. Later on, Sheamus has one in return saying, look, nobody wanted you back, mate. Like, quite a harsh promo in return. But yeah, this is where we got that weird thing. No, they were bickering backstage at this point. JD and the rest of the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, of course. And Raquel said, look, what would Liv want? Dominic says, look, why don't you take care of AJ Styles? And that does set up the match between Finn and AJ later on. We also had Kofi Kingston versus Penta. A pretty good match. Not the kind of like, look, it wasn't pay-per-view quality, and that's okay because it wasn't a pay-per-view match. But I do wonder what these guys could do on another show. It was a good match. It kind of went a bit long, but then again, I think a lot of things on this show kind of dragged out a bit when maybe they could have just had different things going on. It wasn't a bad match. I really enjoyed everything we saw from the guys in the ring and the guys outside the ring, as far as Xavier Woods in his top hat and towels, but no sleeves, and his neck brace because he's playing out that he's got injured from the Destroyer, which, by the way, Grayson Waller's trying to get cancelled, and he's got a petition going around Birmingham. I think they said they'd signed up 27 to the petition, so fair play TMA in Birmingham. And then he goes up to Corey Graves, who signs it. I guess that makes it 28 as well. So that was quite a fun segment. Later on as well, we got to see them be interviewed in the audience in those breaks. Again, if you watched it in the States, you may not have seen this. It might be an exclusive online. But basically, as the ads rolled, we got a bit of bonus footage where they were being interviewed and really happy about the outcome in this match, because Kofi Kingston was victorious, and they turned the frown upside down, if you will. They turned the black clothing into something very colourful indeed, as ticker tape or what do you call it? Colourful confetti essentially lands all over the members of the New Day, thanks to their kind of lackey on the side now, it would seem, in Grayson Waller. Again, not what I expected from his character, but I think he's playing it well. I'm enjoying what he's doing here. I just don't know if it was the right thing. I really don't know. Because the whole thing with him and Austin Theory, again, not having an ended, seems to be more relating to how they feel maybe about Austin Theory, who's not getting on the shows at the moment, it would seem. So, yeah, which is in itself a massive shame. A really, really enjoyable match here, like I say. Not as good as the opener, don't get me wrong, but Kofi Kingston does pick up the win with Trouble in Paradise after basically getting some help, as you can imagine, from the heels, with Grayson Waller also helping out Kofi Kingston here as well. Much like we'd already seen in the opening match as well, a bit of interference. By the way, in the opening match, we did see Finn Balor at first get kind of you're out of here sort of thing from the referee, so that's why it was up to Dominic Mysterio to try and get involved later on. We had some WrestlePalooza hype and stuff like that. We also had Stephanie Vaquer backstage talking about what's happening now. Basically, I missed this at the moment, but I think Aiden said that I didn't really pay attention to what was being said. It was just her saying what's happening next. I didn't notice that apparently Adam Pearce said that you are going to get your match for the title, but I don't know who the other person is going to be, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Of course, that's because Naomi has now relinquished the title, so they will not be facing each other at Clash in Paris. A shame for Naomi, but of course, she's got great things going on in her life, so we can only wish her the best there as well. And hopefully when she comes back, her career continues to kind of pick up and be incredible like it has been over the past year or so. Becky Lynch makes her entrance. Again, this is where we had that kind of awkward situation going on, and it jumped ahead. Becky Lynch comes out and basically says, from what I got of it, because again I did miss the beginning because of that glitch from Netflix, look, I'm not going to wait around for someone to call me and just show up. It was advertised basically as Nikki Bella is going to call out Becky Lynch, but yeah, Becky just didn't want that to happen, it seems, in character. I don't know if there was a creative change to actually explain this, but yeah, she just basically came out herself and called out Nikki Bella, or kind of goaded her out at least. Good stuff on the mic here from Becky, but there was that really, really awkward comment about Ozzy Osbourne. Now, I won't go into it too much here because I've already kind of touched on it. And if you want to know my thoughts more in depth, check it out when it happened on the watch along. But I wasn't really a fan of this. I know there is a way to do this kind of thing, but when Ozzy only passed away a month ago, basically she said something about dying, and she kind of led into saying the good thing about Ozzy is he was smart enough to move to LA, and then also I think she said like the best thing about her, Birmingham died a month ago or something like that. And then at least he was smart enough to move away. But if I was him, I'd want to die too, or something along those lines. It was really, really awkward. Talking of awkward as well, there was kind of awkward back and forth between Nikki Bella and Becky Lynch, and I don't like that I'm saying this, but I don't think it was the best segment. I mentioned on the watch along that the opening segment made me want to watch Roman and Bronson Reed more. I actually went into this feud thinking I want to see Nikki and Becky quite a bit, and now coming out of it thinking I don't want to see it anymore. Maybe I don't want to say I want to see it less, but it just didn't go well. Nikki wasn't bad in her delivery, but it just wasn't, for me, clicking with the fans. She tried a few times to hit the old cheap pops in there, maybe a bit too often as well. Maybe that's because she could tell it wasn't really going that well. And in my opinion, didn't go too well when she then pronounced it as Birmingham, something I think they've tried their best to steer away from, things like Glasgow and Birmingham when they come to the UK. Most of the people are saying Glasgow or Glasgow or Birmingham or Birmingham, closer to pronunciation from people with regional dialects in the UK, or at least, maybe the city itself. But to hit it with a Birmingham was a bit cringy for me. And then Becky did the same, which I can only put down to her being heelish and playing into it, or maybe just being so used to being in the States that she sees Birmingham, Alabama as Birmingham, or the main Birmingham, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going on a bit of a tirade here, but I hope you get what I mean. It was just a bit weird. And it didn't really help that we had things like that, essentially. Nikki went for Lynch, I should say, went for a cheap shot. Nikki blocks it, hits it with a rolling elbow. It's a bit of a back and forth. Manhandle slam gets blocked. The rack attack 2.0 gets blocked. And Becky Lynch gets away to fight another day. And yeah, that other day will be Clash in Paris, which, by the way, we will be doing a watch-along experience, much like we did for tonight's Monday Night Raw. So make sure you tune in for that. And as we always do on PLE nights, we're also going to have a build-up show as well. So keep your eyes tuned on this channel for more content surrounding this European tour, but also surrounding Clash in Paris. We're going to try and cover it in depth for you. CM Punk's interviewed backstage after this as well. And he basically says, you know what, I didn't mean it, but I don't really care when it comes to LA Knight. That's basically the summary of what happened there. Rhea Ripley comes out next, and we have Rhea Ripley versus Roxanne Perez. This is where I think the matches started to drag a little. Again, not a bad match. Bad result, in my opinion. I really wanted to see Roxanne Perez get the win here. I know she's a heel, but she is kind of fragile in the sense that she's not been on the roster for long. As Christopher said in the comments earlier, she's got a really bad record, essentially. And now, overall, and a bad record now against Rhea Ripley. They advertised this as, can Rhea Ripley go 3-0, essentially? And she did. And I was really surprised by that, because they've already got a story where Rhea's trying to do something. So it felt like they wanted to make her look good so that her not being Io wasn't so bad. But Io, in my opinion, as great as she is presented, at least on a lower level than Rhea. So therefore, this is the one time where Rhea doesn't look like the absolute best and doesn't have everybody's number. So that's been good for Io. But then for her to just beat Roxanne 3-0, basically, I didn't like that. Roxanne's proven herself on the main roster as a kind of up-and-comer. She's proven herself within the Judgment Day in the storyline. So I just think it didn't really work. As I say, though, enjoyable match, enjoyable ending if it weren't kind of surrounded by the rest of the story. But it does pick up the win with a Riptide, which I was quite shocked about. After this, though, we'd seen a little bit of action from Raquel Rodriguez getting involved, as you would expect from the heelish Judgment Day faction. And they start beating her down at the end of the match, essentially. Io makes a save. Now, this is kind of interesting because earlier in the night, we'd seen Io and Rhea backstage. And Io was basically saying to Rhea, look, I respect you, but we can't hang out anymore because Asuka and Kairi, they don't really get it and they're not pleased, basically. And Io was really touchy. Rhea was really touchy on the shoulder of Io. And then they carried on chatting, and I thought, oh, that's it. They're going to replay this in the montage in the future. They're going to go, look, they were close. They were touching each other. And when really Io was saying, look, we got to back off, right? Then, they carried on chatting. And the other two in the background really being animated to show that they're disapproving of this because there's a big old hug. And they get really close. Honestly, it felt later on, after seeing this, that maybe it was a little bit more than the friendship that they're alluding to with these two. Because, I don't know, they were just very touchy-feely. Look, mates can be touchy-feely. I hug my mates. I'm not scared to do that. I'm all right hugging my mates, you know? But I don't know. It just felt really weird. They've always respected each other, but now they're really close on camera. And even if it's not more than just friends, it's weird that they're portraying them as those kind of type of friends and that close, because that's never really been the case. She basically comes out to make the save, which I felt was counterproductive because we'd already got the montage clips of the arm and the hug, right? Did we really need to see disapproval? But it's because it was going to play out in front of our eyes, essentially. They just kind of did it all within one show. Io comes out for the save, as I say. But later on, we see that her buddies in Asuka and Kairi saying they're not happy about this. And they start screaming at her, more so Asuka. And then a very, very emotional Kairi watches Asuka leave and then just kind of says, I'm sorry, really sad and earnestly, to a friend in Io. And it was really weird. It was and even Michael Cole was like, this is all weird. It felt like they've really ramped something up here, something that wasn't really there with their characters before. So, and I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing. Is it just a jealousy thing? Is it just that they're going to be heels and is a new story to tell for, so it's a surprising story, but it could be really surprising depending where it goes. I really don't know where they're going to go with this one. So, hey, stay tuned. We'll keep an eye on that one, and we'll kind of give our thoughts on this channel as much as we can. Speaking of which, again, thank you to everyone that joined us earlier on for the watch-along experience of Monday Night Raw from Birmingham. You are now watching the instant reaction review, so we appreciate you here as well. We're also going to be doing a watch-along experience for Friday Night SmackDown coming to you live from Leon as well. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel for details surrounding that stream. And of course, again, on the weekend, we're going to be doing a watch-along and a build-up show for Clash in Paris as well. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Again, we don't just talk wrestling as far as predictions and previews and stuff like that. We've also had the opportunity to interview some of your favorite WWE superstars in the past, like those that have appeared on tonight's show, like Finn Balor. We've also had great conversations with Drew McIntyre and with Damian Priest in the past as well. So thank you for tuning into this, but I do hope you get to see more of our content on this channel. Sticking to the subject at hand though, what did you think of Monday Night Raw overall? If you could rate it, I want to know in the comments, whether you're watching live or on demand. If you're lurking in the background, come on guys, let me know what you thought of Monday Night Raw. Seth Rollins said he was right in the backstage segment to pick Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed was completely different here, by the way. Earlier on, he was all laughing and jokey. Here, angry. They also, in the opening segment, mentioned Bronson's Samoan heritage, which I didn't know. I obviously knew he was of Polynesian descent, but I didn't know it was specifically Samoan. And he said that his family got exiled to Australia. Now, I don't know how much of this is just playing as a character, and he's earned these tattoos, whereas Roman, as a Samoan, is just basically, I guess, a bit kind of insinuating he's a bit of a fraud and not as legit and as scary as his tribe, essentially. And, just paid for his tattoos. So, yeah. Quite laughy and jokey, but also kind of menacing in the opener. But then this backstage bit, he's just like a beast. He's just really angry. Yeah. Heyman saying to Seth, look, you were right. You're such a genius. And he's like, yeah, I am. And then he turns to Braun and basically is really hyping up the Vision, as they call their stable now as well. AJ Styles versus Finn Balor. Again, this is because Dominic Mysterio said, oh, you know him. You saw it out. Didn't really work out for Finn Balor, though, because AJ wins off of a fantastic kind of sequence at the end there, where he kind of reverses a load of moves essentially into the Styles Clash and hits the pin. Really, really good match here. Again, one that started a little slow, but really picked up in the end and was enjoyable overall. And another example, if you put this on a PLE, this is a WrestleMania match. I'm not saying they delivered a WrestleMania worthy match, but like marquee wise, it's a WrestleMania match. They delivered a good Raw match, though. It was really cool. And that's, that's okay. You shouldn't have WrestleMania matches on Raw all the time, right? Or that often at all, really. But a good Raw quality match. Didn't really work out for the Judgment Day. They're backstage now with Adam Pearson saying, look, not happy about this. There's a funny bit where JD McDonough interrupt Adam Pearce's idea and said, oh, yeah, he's going to be back for the building in Paris next week, right? And he says, no, next week, Monday Night Raw in Paris, thankfully, because we're going to get to see the great, phenomenal chant I'm hoping for AJ Styles again. He's going to be facing off against Dirty Dom for the IC title. And I got a feeling that he might actually win it this time, because Dom's had this belt for a while, and we wondered if he could be dropping it a few weeks back to AJ. This would make sense in a place like Paris, which suddenly France feels like AJ's home in some ways. We had a Bayley promo as well, one of those kind of hearing voices things. We saw it last week, of course, with the role model. This time, I believe it was the first time at least, we heard the voice of the Hugger Bayley as well. They showed a cool silhouette of both characters and some kind of shots where you didn't really see her face, but as both characters as well. She's feeling turmoil because she hears the Hugger first, then she hears the role model, and then she's kind of like freaking out about it. Look, I think it looks visually and audibly even quite cool, but for canon, for pro wrestling, it doesn't make sense, right? You could suspend your disbelief, right, for the Undertaker and for Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt Six, but like it can't keep going like unless Bayley really goes full force into this kind of supernatural character. Like, why are we hearing her voice? Like, the only other way is that she, in order to get across her point, has manufactured this video herself. Like, that's the only way they can get around it as far as making this, I guess, believable, right? I don't get it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her character. I can't lie. I think she needed a refresh, and I'm glad they're putting something into her, so there's that at least. Lyra Valkyria, by the way, backstage as well with Adam Pearce, showing concern for Bayley. So it'll be interesting to see if she. I imagine they're just going to go into a feud, and after showing concern and compassion for Bayley, is going to suffer Bayley's wrath. So I think this is going to be a bad ending essentially for Lyra Valkyria. What else did we get? Well, we get into the main event, really. Braun Breaker's walking backstage with Bronson Reed. He's taken out Bronson Reed by Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has kind of pulled back a little bit. He's taken out outside of the venue, and then LA Knight attacks Braun Breaker, and then they basically just brawl onto the stage, down the ramp, around the ring, and then in the ring for the final portion of tonight's show. Again, another one of those that was kind of a long match. But maybe because I felt like it was dragging because I was looking at it as if it was going to be 45 minutes long. I was like, how are we going to get to the top of the hour? We didn't. It probably all in all was about 20 minutes out there at least. And then you had the bit, of course, backstage. Good match overall. Not the match of the night. That was Dragon Lee, as I say, and JD McDonough with a fantastic opener. But one that was kind of exciting at the end, and it was the typical thing. We'd seen CM Punk backstage. Surely he was going to go out there. We'd seen Jey Uso with a little kind of segment with Roman Reigns, where again he was really hyping up this kind of, like, it's my bad, and you're impressing people and you're doing good sort of thing. You do got to wonder where that's going. I don't think he should be turning heel. You could argue Jay was a little heelish tonight because he just kicked a bad guy. But bad guys can kick good guys. Can kick good guys. No, he kicked a good guy. Is what I'm getting at. Seemed like a bad guy. Some people could take it that way. It's always risky when you do a good guy on good guy. It was also really risky for LA Knight. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but that's what we got to at the end. LA Knight is getting beaten down by Seth Rollins because he's interrupted what ended up being a beatdown essentially at the end of the match because Braun Breaker wins with the spear. Seth Rollins comes out and just starts battering LA Knight. Jey Uso comes out to even things. Bronson Reed comes out as well. And then we get CM Punk. Massive ovation. Just like the other week, they start singing his theme song, Continue It. It looks fantastic. Again, the fans in Birmingham, great tonight. They get in the ring. Him and Seth start going at it after he's already taken out Braun Breaker. And the good guys basically prevail. The bad guys start running away. Clutching onto the world title is Seth Rollins next to Paul Heyman and his cronies. And then there's a little bit of shoving, argy-bargy from LA Knight and CM Punk. They're pushing each other. They accidentally knock over Jey Uso. Jey Uso super kicks LA Knight. And at this stage, I thought the two good guys standing over the other good guy in LA Knight was a risky move for someone like LA. Because of his character's kind of heelish, and it could be misinterpreted as, oh, we shouldn't like this guy, even though a lot of people do like him, of course. But CM Punk, people really like, and Jey Uso. I mean, people really like LA, don't get me wrong, but it's just a different kind of vibe. Anyway, different kind of character. Then what you get is Jay just super kicking CM Punk, like business for himself. That is it. He is in it on his own. And this is getting a laugh from Seth Rollins, who's cackling away and hits a yeet himself. Then Jey Uso gets the whole crowd to do a big old yeet. And that is pretty much how the show goes off the air as he starts yeeting up on the turnbuckle to take things home on this edition of Raw on Netflix. Coming to you live again, as it was from the UK, from Birmingham. A really, really fun show. And again, a hot crowd. Really, really like some of the chants they did here. The obvious ones like the Roman Reigns to Daddy Cool, but the We Will Rock You chant saying Rhea Ripley was fantastic. So really just funny chants. There was ones about I think about the shoes in the early going and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, give your shoes back or whatever it was. Fantastic audience, really, really on top of things, and a fun show overall. Again, I'm always kind of dubious about Monday Night Raw being 3 hours, but thankfully it didn't go that long. But I thought it was, so kind of just felt long in my head. It only went 35 minutes longer than SmackDown, but still 25 minutes shorter than a Monday Night Raw would usually be. But this has been your instant reaction review, guys. Once again, thank you to everyone that joined us for this stream. If you're watching live or on demand, we appreciate you. We want to know your thoughts, so get them in the comments below. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as I mentioned, we're going to be hitting you with a watch-along experience for SmackDown on Friday when it comes to your live. All right. Well, we did hit you with a SmackDown watch along. We also hit you with a SmackDown instant reaction review. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But yeah, thanks for staying with us, guys. Again, you've been watching our Monday Night Raw review there. And I want to know in the comments what you thought of Monday Night Raw from Birmingham. Again, it was an interesting show. Didn't quite hit the 3 hours, which again, as you saw from the replay there, I was pretty pleased about. But what were your comments on Monday Night Raw? Of course, we're here for the build-up show for Clash in Paris. Basically, we're here to get you guys hyped up and in the mood for the PLE tonight. Let me know in the comments what match you're most looking forward to. And again, what you thought of this week's kind of Raw and this week's SmackDown as well. And that's what we're going to do now, actually. We're going to play our SmackDown review from just a few nights ago. Again, so let me know what you thought of this show, but also what you're most looking forward to on the build-up. As you can see from the graphic there, we've got Roman Reigns, of course, going up against the man who stole his shoes in tonight's show. So that's going to be quite a fun match, I'm sure, which sounds a bit of a weird thing to promote. Sounds like I'm being disingenuous, but I'm not. I genuinely do think it'll be a good match, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do as well. So let me just line up that stream ready for us, and we will get to our SmackDown review as well. Okay, 1 second. And again, keep your comments coming, guys. Let us know what you think is going to happen tonight on Clash in Paris. Speaking of which, let's get to some of these comments before we do actually throw it over to our SmackDown review. All right, so some of the comments coming in here. Let's throw it over to some of these. We've got Cody. Who's Cody faces? Look, Cody's not even having a match. F Sweezy, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. He's not having a match. I mean, he might show up in a surprise. That is a possibility. And also says Yeshua Fala as well. Of course, referring to Bronson Reed. I'm looking forward to the Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. Self MKG's in the house as CM Punk or John Cena, as I referred to in the comments while we were watching the replay there. I would like to see CM Punk as champion again, but I do think it's a long, long way away. What we're going to do now, though, as I say, is throw it over to our SmackDown review. So if you haven't seen that, stay tuned, and then I'll be back live later on to talk all things Clash in Paris as well. So here we go. This is our SmackDown review. All right, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and we've just got done with our watch-along experience for SmackDown in Lyon. Thank you to everyone that joined us, and thank you for those that stayed tuned for the instant reaction review. Now, pleased to say it was a very, very exciting show. One that I did enjoy, and it ended with a big, big moment, of course, in a new champion being crowned. Of course, Sami Zayn is your new United States champion. The title changed hands away from American soil in France, and a very, very fun match at that. I'm a bit surprised by it, I've got to be honest, but what a great way to give those fans in Lyon a little treat for kind of how well they cheered all night, and just like they did last year as well. Look, very, very excited to be back here for the stream, but it's not just me. I'm also with Mr. Andy Spores. Andy, how are you doing? What are your thoughts coming out of SmackDown in Lyon?
Yeah, it was as expected, a very rowdy crowd over in France, as we saw when they were there last time as well. And it feels with that ending, maybe they got a little bit of recognition by having a title change hands in Lyon as well. So really cool moment for the French fans to get that, especially on a SmackDown. And yeah, I'm interested to have a bit of a chat about Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa and where that kind of leaves both guys as well.
Yeah, me too. I mean, again, I was surprised that's what they went with. I'm not against it, because it was a moment. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it on air. I enjoyed the moment just watching it itself. And it was, I guess, something, as you say, well deserved for the fans, a little bit of a reward for them as well. So we'll break down the show kind of match by match, segment by segment as we make our way through. Just get to a few comments here as well. Aiden said, just as we were wrapping up the watch along, that he was shocked that there was no interaction at the end with Jimmy and Jacob celebrating, which I agree, and I assume you do as well, Andy, from the nods there. We'll touch on that match in more detail later on and all the kind of shenanigans around it. Will Reddisport says we've got an ROH pay-per-view tonight. With Athena versus Mina. And also Christopher Leclerc says Sami Zayn just needs to win the world championship and become a Grand Slam champion. That kind of leads into my kind of thoughts on this a little bit as well. A little spoiler there, because we don't want to dive into too much. We'll do it a bit in chronological order where we can. But yeah, that's my biggest kind of about this, is that I just want Sami winning the big one. I'm sick of these mid-card titles for Sami, because he's been there and he's done that. But the show started out with a pretty big opener. Something that we saw also on last week's show in Dublin, of course, was Logan Paul and John Cena going face-to-face in what was, once again, a pretty entertaining promo segment to open the show as well. Again, it was promised that Cena would be on the show. He was coming out essentially to address what happened at the end of last week's event, of course, where he was punched in a cheap way, essentially, by Logan Paul. But we did see Cena opening the show, but before he could get there, Logan Paul went out there to take care of business himself. So what were your thoughts on the opener? Did you enjoy what we saw from John Cena and Logan Paul in this one, Andy?
Yeah, I think it was exactly what was needed the night before their showdown, or 2 nights, I guess. I keep thinking it's Saturday. I don't know why.
I know, it's so confusing being a Sunday PLE again, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was exactly what they needed between the two of them, is just to have another face-to-face. I think a lot of this was John Cena probably wanted to enjoy that crowd and just see, like sort of soak up the atmosphere and also let the crowd see John Cena, because, again, you're going to get those moments where it's nights like tonight when they do a package at the end of his year run where they'll be able to use stuff like this because of like how big that reception was.
Yeah.
And it was just, we've seen it. It's a redo of like every other one that he's done, where he destroys someone verbally in the ring, and he gets that chance to to say, this is sink or swim time, kid. It's time to grow a set and step up, and it's their chance to do so. So to me, that was Logan Paul's chance to kind of step up, and it was good to let him have his time first, because a lot of people do struggle when they go against John Cena toe to toe on the mic. So I think it was sort of well done all around. Is exactly what I expected. Logan Paul draws heat wherever he goes, and John Cena at the moment gets cheers everywhere he goes. So perfectly done. I can't really add much more to that, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's a good point you make there. Putting Logan in first gave him the opportunity to kind of, be the sole focus rather than the thunder being stolen. You could argue, well, Cena comes out and therefore takes it away from him anyway. But the kind of back and forth, we didn't get too much back and forth. It was more Logan's turn, and then mainly Cena talking in the second half of it. Logan had a few kind of bite backs here and there, which probably kind of helped him, rather than, as you say, kind of a situation where sink or swim and he's kind of drowning against one of the better superstars on the mic. And I said it when we was on the watch along, I've got to admit, Logan Paul is very entertaining on the mic still. So and he's getting better and better. It's a frightening thing. We've been saying it since day one, but it'd be interesting to go back and watch his early matches and his early promos. And
he sounds more natural. I think he's found a cadence where it fits him, where he's not necessarily reading from a script. Like, I think he knows what his points are, and you can kind of tell there's a little bit being fed to him beforehand.
100%. Yeah.
Whereas at the beginning, if I remember rightly, a lot of them felt a bit sort of stinted because he didn't quite know how to react to certain points, let the crowd do their thing and respond to it. Whereas now he knows to kind of utilize that as part of the promo, which I think is fantastic and shows his progression. So this is probably one of the stronger ones he's had. There's still a bit where you kind of like, you don't need to chirp in quite as much.
Yeah.
But he's annoying, so he kind of gets away with it.
100%. I think the character, as you say, kind of plays into that. So he does get away with it. But those are the only kind of things where, if you found any kind of criticism with his promo style, there are sometimes where he could let it breathe a little bit longer or not say the obvious thing. But generally speaking, again, it fits his character and very, very entertaining. Talking of entertaining, we've also got Lucas in the house. Going to bring him on the stream now as well to let us know his thoughts on that opening segment. Again, he joined us earlier on the watch along for a little bit and was commenting away in the background. But now that he's back and had his pizza, let's see what he actually thought of the opening segment to SmackDown. Lucas.
Hello, guys. Hello, Andy. You right?
How's it going?
Yeah. Open segment. To be fair, I thought the whole episode was actually really good tonight. Actually, I think a lot of good. Hello, Andy. Hello, Aiden. Sorry. So I'm reading hello, Andy. We're looking at Andy. I thought the segment was done well. Like, I think it's very hard for someone to play off against Cena. I think that, especially in this, we're getting close, guys. It's less than 10 dates now left.
Yeah, scary.
I think. Something I did message earlier. I did say, like, I do wonder why they do these long promo segments in countries where English is not the first language. Obviously, I know they're doing it because, obviously, for domestic viewers, but it did leave a few kind of awkwardnesses because there was some kind of like real nice lines and some real kind of nice insults that kind of went over the French's crowd, and it left for like some of the stuff being kind of delayed response because obviously they're struggling. They're not struggling. They're trying to get the translation right before they're reacting. But I thought it was a really, really, really nice touch. Cena obviously apologising to the kiddie upset.
Oh man, that was so cool.
I'd love to know if that was planned. Like, surely, I don't know, with the kid go, I don't know, Boston and France are very close.
Yeah. But the kid didn't seem to be in on it.
He was on social media, though. I think WWE shared that the kid was in the crowd in the queue to go in. Right, so they obviously knew he was there, and I'll presume they've fed him into a position and told John Cena he'll be around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon there's a bit of both. I reckon perhaps either he got that seat as it was, or they knew he was coming, saw him in a queue and said, you know what, do you want to upgrade? And essentially sat him in those seats where Cena came. But I thought it was a really nice touch. It's Cena, like, this is another genius of John Cena, though. Like, obviously, as we all know, come pretty much to the conclusion of Clash in Paris, the only thing on the mind of anyone when it comes to John Cena will be John Cena against Brock Lesnar, most likely at WrestlePalooza, maybe stretching it to Perth or Survivor Series, but that's what is next. And so we know that come the conclusion of a Logan Paul match, win, lose, draw, whatever, like, this will be it for the Logan Paul and John Cena feud.
Yeah.
So I think they've done a good job of making it seem like it's not just that stopgap. And I think if the match delivers, which I think it will, it's got that kind of, and it may even be like a nice turning point for Logan Paul as a character, to kind of, if he loses, he may be a little bit humbled. We might even go the other way, where obviously he just go completely, thing. And if he wins, my God, I think we will be seeing the inevitable, which is going to happen anyway. But I think it will kind of basically dictate that he is most likely going to be next in line for a world or WWE heavyweight kind of title, maybe even title win down the line if he gets this win. But I think Cena will win going, and that's some of this discussion anyway. But I thought the opening segment was done really, really well, and I was pleased with the development from last week. I think this feud's actually been quite interesting.
Yeah, me too. I think last week was fun. This week was good, and I think, as you said, it doesn't feel like a stopgap feud. It feels like one that's important, and that's impressive when there are no titles on the line. So I think they've done a good job. I mean, they've tried to have Cena acknowledge his heel past, but also not acknowledge it by just going back to the same old stuff, which I felt was a little awkward. But I think, again, this whole heel run not working could be analysed for years, and I'm sure for years to come we'll be kind of referring back to it and hopefully looking at it with a different set of eyes in the future to be able to kind of analyse it a little bit more. But at the moment, we've just got to enjoy what we've got and say, you know what, the people want to cheer Cena, and Cena wants to have a good time going out, and I think we've just got to kind of accept that. And again, what we're getting at the moment, I can't deny, is fun. And if you're ever going to kind of at least play into some of the stuff from his heel stuff, then I think the moment with the fan was really, really nice. We also saw him compare himself to Logan Paul, which I think was a bit odd. He seems to do that a lot, which I just didn't think worked with the Logan Paul character. If there's any negative for me, it's probably that one. I don't think it really was very truthful. But all in all, again, a fun little segment, a great way to start the show.
Discovering.
And who are we discovering? And again, a good way to start quite an exciting show. The fans were on fire straight away. as expected. The first match we saw, though, was supposed to be a tag team title match. When we were doing the preview on the watch along stream, news was out there essentially saying, look, it doesn't look like Piper Niven is going to be available, and that she's instead going to be replaced by her, I guess not Secret Service member, because she and Alba are the only members, but they are looking after Chelsea Green. Of course, the graphic here was quickly out of date. Chelsea Green was said to be replacing Piper Niven, and then that didn't even take place anyway, because they went from what is apparently a real injury to staging a kind of kayfabe injury in taking out Charlotte Flair, which I think worked out really well in the end, because it made her look like the hero when she made the save on Alexa. But a nice, fun opening match here with Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green. I was glad, because as much as I liked the Secret Service and Chelsea Green, I want it to be the tag team that win those belts. And I also like Charlotte and Alexa, and I don't want them to take that kind of turn in whatever direction their storyline goes in just yet anyway. So for me, I actually wonder if they were going to make the Secret Service win and it would have been too soon, or if this the plan all along, they would have lost anyway. Throw it over to you, Andy, on this one. What are your thoughts on the opening match and the kind of melee around it, essentially, to turn it to a one-on-one?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I took away from it is just how evergreen popular Alexa Bliss is. She's just the noise that crowds make, no matter where they are in the world. She's so over, and it's incredible that that's still going. And obviously, she had that kind of extended break away while she had a child, and then after that, she was kind of, I presume, they were waiting for the right time to bring her back. But yeah, just testament to her popularity that she's still getting that kind of noise. There's a lot of noise at the moment as well about the stuff that's going on in NXT that they're doing with Ethan Page. So I wonder if they're going to try and find a way to spin it, because that's the kind of rumor, is that, you know, it's gone down very well backstage, and they're trying to find a way to bring him over to SmackDown as part of that Canadian group, Canadian Scottish group, I guess, as it really is.
Just call them Nova Scotia. There we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. So it'd be interesting to see if we do move away from that now into more of a sort of faction that includes Ethan Page. So yeah, nice opening match. It was a strange one. I kind of feared for the women's, and we'll talk about the other one later on, but I was a bit like, I don't know how long they're actually going to get on either of these when they started pulling a bit of hijinks.
Yeah, what about you, Lucas? What are your thoughts on the kind of craziness that surrounded this match and how it ended?
Yeah, I can only assume that they were going to lose, and they potentially didn't want Chelsea Green on the losing end in terms of like a tag team match, potentially. Maybe. And same as Love Place as a single. I don't know. I can't work this company out. But yeah, obviously on NXT they have had her working alongside Ethan Page, and obviously at Heatwave just gone, they worked a very interesting match where obviously they were villains with a Canadian gimmick, but were getting heavily cheered against the two American gold medalists, Tara May Steele and Tavion Heights. And I think overall the work that they've done together seems to be going down very, very well. And I think if Piper Niven is injured and maybe out, kind of, and can't be around for a little bit, it might be the sensible thing to maybe do the jump now. But I do just fear with that obviously does that become more of a vehicle for Ethan Page or for the women? Because at the moment, Secret Service and Chelsea Green very much, a strong part of the women's division. And if the plan was for them to win the tag belts at some time, and if Piper Niven can't make it, are you not just better off just doing Chelsea Green and Alba Fire winning the tag belts?
Maybe, especially if they are bringing over Ethan Page, because there's a chance Chelsea, weirdly enough, since it's her group, gets lost in the shuffle once they bring someone like Ethan Page over. I hope that's not the case. I hope Chelsea still is the kind of main player in the group, and kind of Ethan Page is the subservient, kind of slimy bad guy, which I think would work very well in a kind of male-female kind of dynamic as well. So yeah, I hope that's what they do with it. Again, you're watching the instant reaction review for SmackDown, but we'd love to know your thoughts as well. So see some comments coming in. Keep them coming. Aiden is saying a little warm welcome to Lucas. Before we get to some of his comments about wrestling, he wants to know, did you enjoy your pizza? And what was it, Lucas?
I'm a simple man. It was a margarita pizza. Pizza was good. Pizza was good.
Free good to hear. It was what? Free?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't even know on air how you got into these dodgy deals, mate. Let's. I'm a bit scared to ask you, so we'll pause that one there. Aiden also says John Cena winning the IC belt to become Grand Slam champion. That's something we haven't even really discussed. That's incredible that he's never even done that. Who knows? Could we see that happen before he retires in what is 8 appearances left? I think that Ethan and Chelsea segment has been dry and unenjoyable. Aiden not really a fan of it, and says can't wait for the day that Piper and Alba, but I prefer Kaylee Ray to turn on Chelsea. Of course, Aiden a little bit biased there, being Scottish as well. Got a lot of love for the Secret Herfists, as do we on the channel, though. They are great talents. And yeah, it's a shame that Piper's injured. Hopefully it's not a long one, because I do think them being tag champs makes sense. Again, I just think it would have been a bit soon because of the other story on the other side of Alexa and Charlotte. Let's carry on with the rest of SmackDown, though. We saw Sami Zayn being interviewed backstage in a lovely Fred Perry polo, and he spoke a little bit of French for the audience as well. Said he felt how he felt going into WrestleMania when he won the IC title, and yeah, just kind of really started hyping up that main event, which we'll touch on later on. We also saw the announcement of Brandy Rhodes and Cody Rhodes' second daughter, so fantastic news for them. Congratulations. We came back from commercial and we saw Aleister Black cutting a kind of spooky candlelit promo on Damian Priest, who then cut one of his own. I was a little bit confused about this one, boys, because Damian Priest was going, he sounds articulate, he looks articulate, or clever, or something like that, whatever he was saying. Then he changed it to as if Aleister wants to be like Damian, which I don't think Aleister said. Wants to know about Damian's life or something. It just kind of quickly turned. But then again, I think it was a fun promo because it ended with wait, Barrett, Michael Cole, back to you, which was quite kind of cheeky from the wrestler rather than the announcer. But I was a little bit confused by this one, even though I'm looking forward to the feud. I'm also confused by the fact that we didn't see him out there in the flesh. Of course, SmackDown is continuing as a live event at the moment. I imagine there's a dark match going on, and that could very well be it. But thoughts on this kind of back and forth promo between the two there? First, run it over to you, Lucas. What did you think about the segment here?
Does Damian Priest ever wrestle anymore? Like,
maybe not.
Just, I don't remember the last time he was actually in a match. I remember like when they did say there were rumours for something big happening with him, but it just doesn't seem to have been happening. Obviously, he moved to SmackDown. Now, this is something which goes into a bigger thing, but people moving brands for certain things and then not delivering on those certain things, it's getting a bit silly. Because the whole thing is, he said he moved to SmackDown because he was done with the Judgment Day on Raw, and he wanted basically to be a future WWE champion. And he's made no effort in any feud or any action he's done in order to be WWE champion again. So I don't understand like why move over and then not have anything for the person. And now we're in a feud where you said earlier that obviously Cena and saying he was similar to Logan Paul was daft. So was this. Like, I don't understand, because obviously Aleister Black was doing the whole dark stuff long before Damian Priest even got it to the main roster. Like, Aleister Black's always been that dark character, that dark gothic character. So if anything, Damian Priest should have said that, oh, I looked up to you, I model myself off you, and I've gone this way. But to make it out like you're the kind of original and that he's copied is a bit daft. Because even if you go off the basis that yes, Aleister did leave to go to AEW, during the interim, he was still there before you anyway in the first place.
And I think it doesn't help when Damian's not dressed in his spooky getup. You know what I mean? He's dressed in normal street clothes, and he's like, "Oh, you don't know my story?" And all I can think of, like Puerto Rican, New York. That's what he's talking about. Like, I didn't even take on board the whole kind of spooky side to his character. Yeah,
which I haven't really done enough of with anyway. But I think in terms of this feud, it's interesting because this feud started before SummerSlam. I'm convinced. So it's been going quite a while, and there's not been a match.
Like you say, Damian don't wrestle anymore.
It seems not. And it's seemingly that it's not going to be happening at Clash in Paris.
Yeah.
To get a match added to that. So we have broken the evil streak of 5-match cards, it seems.
I believe it. Yeah.
And I don't know if is it something that's going to roll over to WrestlePalooza? Are they going to stretch that to then? Or is it just a television feud?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the segment was like okay. Like it's one of those. There's a few awkward promos that exist in WWE. I'm missing one of them. Like the other one I hate is a split screen promo one because it's always awkward. I'm missing another one where he's reacting to something that's on a screen, and then we're not really going to get a response or resolution until possibly next week or the week after. But I think it's one of those you have to just file under watch this space.
Yeah.
Which is kind of awkward because they're two kind of main guys, or meant to be main guys, that aren't obviously getting the TV time to at least have a match anyway. But potentially we see it next week. I don't know, Andy. When do you think we see this match? Is it ever happening?
Yeah, I wonder if there's been an injury that they're just trying to stall for time, maybe to kind of get them both in the ring. And maybe it's Damien Priest who's had like a knock or something. But I don't get it, because obviously they spun this out from the match that happened between Aleister Black and R-Truth, and the kind of interactions that they had there, and then went off in this direction. And yeah, like I think you guys know my thoughts on Damien Priest. I'm not his biggest fan, and I kind of feel like Aleister Black's the one you've got to give the ball to here and just let him win this feud out whenever it happens. But yeah, I guess if you want to make a big deal of it, can he stretch it out 3 weeks longer and do it at WrestlePalooza? Again, that's a long time now, because they've been spinning their wheels, for weeks, what it feels like anyway. So I don't know, like maybe we do just see it next week and move on. But I do think you've got to kind of start, for both guys' sake, to get away from it now, because you're going to start getting a lot of the same stuff coming out. And it was a very weird line, because if you know anything about Aleister Black from, when he was before WWE and he was in ICW and he was doing like, cult stuff there and kidnapping backstage interviewers, like, he's been doing this for a long time. So very, very weird to have, Damien Priest claim that, but never mind. I don't think he's got much else to hang his hat on at the moment. So, yeah, I think it's time to move on. So maybe make this a main event of SmackDown if you can't stretch out for 3 weeks and get it done next week.
I could see it being something where they have the match and it doesn't result in a finish, and therefore they add a stipulation, and that becomes the WrestlePalooza, and that's how you stretch it out. But other than that, like you guys say, it's hard to see how much they can spread it out on the microphone, essentially, or with these kind of segments that we saw tonight. But next up, let's move into, we'll talk about someone not wrestling. Kiana James barely wrestled as well, because she came out to defend Julia's honor. Look, we saw it last week on SmackDown in Dublin. Michin said she wanted the US title opportunity, and Kiana says, you got to go through me first. Michin said, great, you're just offering me more matches, essentially saying I like wrestling, that's cool, to paraphrase, and she gets her opportunity. Kiana James' SmackDown debut, and it didn't really go the way you'd want your debut to go if this was, well, a legit sport at least. It's a story, so she'll probably look back on this, no matter what her career becomes, as a kind of fun moment either way, because it got people talking, and it is what it is, and sometimes you've got to play the fool before you become the kind of the main event, essentially. And I think it played into a character a little bit, which is something I'm a bit confused by, because I don't get how her character mixes with Julia's at all. We've seen odd couples work before, don't get me wrong, but it just seems a little off to me. But that's not saying that those two girls didn't deliver in their parts tonight. I think Kiana playing into her embarrassment and anger over it was pretty well done. Michin looks strong, as she should, because I think she probably will pick up US gold eventually. And Julia is finally being booked, and she gets the opportunity to make herself look strong by beating up on Michin as well. I've got a fear that Julia is going to lose it very quickly. I do think Michin should win it, but not just yet. But that's a bit of an awkward thing to say when Julia's had it for some time. She just simply hasn't been on TV. Let's throw it back to you this time, Andy. What are your thoughts on the 3-second match? Did any of it annoy you, or was you just kind of cool with what it was?
I was got flashbacks of is it Giovanni Vinci when he lost his debut after being repackaged for Asia, and he got that.
Now that one was a problem. This one, I don't. Yeah,
it doesn't bode well for her. Let's put it that way. I don't know. There's stuff about her presentation that I think kind of annoys me a little bit, because the bag is a ridiculous size, but they're not trying to play it off as a comedy thing. So that in itself, I don't get. She looks fantastic in terms of like being like looks like a superstar, absolutely. But I wasn't a big fan on NXT. She hasn't done anything to kind of dissuade me of that. At least they explained on the way to the ring the whole boss thing, and like how she was a really good business what was it, young person business or something or other, where they explained why she's doing what she's doing, but it didn't tangibly tie it to Julia, and Julia should really be a superstar in her own right. We've already been robbed of seeing Stephanie Vicker tomorrow, or Sunday, sorry. We could have done with something better than we got here and had Julia. And also the stomp thing, like the angle didn't do them any favors because Michin was nowhere near the stairs and kind of had to sell it. And it was a bit like, oh, I just thought that ending was a little bit, I get what they were going for, but you need to be a bit more snug in that circumstance to make it believable.
Lucas, thoughts on this? I want to say match, but really,
it was nice to see Julia. I will be very annoyed though if Julia does lose to Michin straight away. I think it would actually follow like several Japanese wrestlers just not getting these good title runs. Like Shinsuke Nakamura did it with the US title. Was it earlier this year, wasn't it? Won the title at Survivor Series last year, defended it once, and then just lost it.
Yeah.
And because they didn't see him book him for like 2 months. They need to find a way to get these mid-card belts and feuds onto television. They've got a lot of television. Stop giving people 20-minute promo segments. Stop having the first match start 32 minutes into the broadcast, and put on, the mid-card belts that you're meant to like. You're meant to, get us to care about. In terms of this, so obviously, interesting. I was thinking of this Giovanni Vinci thing as well, but I think that this is very different in the sense that they have already kind of given a character reason for it happening, and it just leads potentially to a better match down the line that Kiana James can get the win back off. I think this was not the one to really introduce, especially like an international crowd, like to her. Because Nasa was away, they didn't really know who she was. She hasn't done anything on the main roster. Whereas I think at least if they go to America, and especially if they go around, when next in Florida, for example, there'd be people who obviously have seen Kiana James do what she does. It's a shame that obviously she got injured very early on to debuting on the Raw roster, didn't she, last year? Obviously took a long time out and has come back now. I think the relationship makes sense, and I think hopefully they delve more into it over the coming weeks. But it does make sense because Kiana, one of her best skills was mic skills, and Julia, obviously, just with the language barrier.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think booking-wise, that makes sense to cover something. I guess what I mean is character-wise, it doesn't make sense. Like they wouldn't be friends, it seems.
Yeah. I think they need to make a thing of it. Like it seems that she's like almost like a sports agent type thing, but she got the unique. But she's also a wrestler, attached to it. So potentially we can delve more into that. I'm fine with the 3-second thing. I think the only thing I'd say is they booked the first 2 matches are booked exactly the same. You had, and they're both in the women's division too, where you had the babyface win and then get 2-on-1 handicap after the match. Fair enough, Charlotte Flair did come out actually, to be fair, in the tag thing, so it's more like 2-on-2, but you still had essentially the villains basically standing over the faces, which back to back, not really too ideal, but I can see why potentially why they did it, because obviously what was to come later on the show.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on Charlotte Flair there. Actually, just a quick point on that. I think she got a great reception. I think the babyface turn has really worked. Credit to her, credit to Alexa, and there are a few things that I think are behind that I do want to dive into, but that's probably build-up territory for another stream, another day, essentially. If you're new here for the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, we basically, on the night of a PLE, hype you up and get you in the mood for that PLE by talking last-minute rumours and kind of breaking down matches and predictions and stuff like that. And we also go off on random topics and kind of debates as well with our friends from the wrestling media. So tonight, of course, we've got Andy Spoilers joining us over here on this SmackDown Instant Reaction Review. And, of course, member of this channel, Lucas, as well. If you want to see more from us, again, subscribe. You can also find Andy Spores at Wrestling Royalty. And Andy, you tell them where they can find you, mate.
No, you're doing a really good job there.
Wrestling Royalty, WrestleSphere, going over to SoundSphere a bit more now as well, right?
That's right.
Do we go back to your Rock and Wrestling days as well? Like, can we still?
Yeah, I mean, I like just to, Rock and Wrestling is pretty intangibly linked. So, if you enjoy a little bit of everything, a bit of gaming in there as well, a bit of wrestling, a bit of TV, film and music, you can check that all out on SoundSphere. We kind of amalgamated them back together for now because we've got a big audience. We don't want people to having to go look too far. Let's put it all in one place for you.
Hey, that's smart, mate. I appreciate that. Look, talking about all being in one place later on, we're going to have a weekend kickoff show for Clash in Paris where we're going to break down all of the card. Of course, as Lucas said earlier on, another match has been added to that. Surprise, surprise, it's more than just a 5 for those in Paris. So that's exciting. We're going to break down those later on in a different stream. But right now, you are watching the instant reaction review to SmackDown. Now, let's move over to what actually happened on SmackDown. Let's move away from these two opening matches that featured women and talk about a segment that featured two of the most over men in the company, in my opinion, with Randy Orton getting a sing-song for good measure and McIntyre getting a fantastic ovation. Didn't do either of the things I expected, which was to play into it or to turn against it. He kind of just played it in the middle, which is always interesting to see how a heel plays it. But what I thought was quite interesting about this little promo was the seeds being sown, in my opinion, as they have been for quite some time now, on a Randy Orton turning on Cody Rhodes situation, where Drew said, look, Randy, look, he's not your mate. He's no one's mate. And like he took advantage of you and you need to remember that. And when it came to Randy talking, he basically said along the lines of, yeah, I'll keep that in mind, sort of thing. So it's interesting from Randy Orton. Of course, it's not happened tonight, but that I kind of feel sows the seeds for later on. Got a little bit of a back and forth here as well, where we ended up seeing Randy Orton go for the punt. Now, this reminds us, of course, of the storyline that was leading into WrestleMania that sadly got axed because of the injury to Kevin Owens. It feels like they've just kind of copy and pasted that part of that feud over here now. It gives Drew something to do. We don't know how long for. Is this something that lasts a week because Drew maybe faces off against Cody at WrestlePalooza? Is Cody gone for a little bit longer because of his, wife just having given birth? Or is Cody back at Clash in Paris or something like that? We don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But what we do know is that something at the moment is going on with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre. But where is it going? I'm going to throw over to you first of all, Lucas. Your reactions to this and where you think it might be going.
I think it's going to be used as a vehicle for Cody to return. I think they're going to do the match maybe next week or the week after. Mm-hmm. Cody returns, and that will set up Cody and Drew at WrestlePalooza most likely. I think that I don't see Orton turning. The problem they're going to have with Orton turning is people won't boo him. And at the moment, be fair, probably Cody needs to turn more than Orton. The fans are already, because he's had the belt more than 5 minutes, the fans are already, making their feelings and voices heard. And I think that would be the smart decision to make. I think that Orton just got the legacy pop. He's never going to get booed. People just are so happy that he's back wrestling. After obviously he took a long hiatus and then we're back injury. And he is, again, like, as much as Cena's having his final year now, you have to imagine it's not going to be too long for Randy Orton. Definitely as a full-time wrestler anyway. So I think that... But in terms of the segment, what we saw, like, it was solid stuff from both. Obviously, a little bit affected by the French crowd. I think some of the insults were, were kind of missed. But, I think it was a very tidy promo segment. And it was nice to see some physical altercation between the two. I love how there's little things that Drew does that just put him on the next level. And just the littlest, tiniest thing that he does is when he misses like a bro kick, the Claymore kick, and his facial expression is so good. Like, it's only like a little thing. It's on the screen for like a split second, but he sets up. He goes up for the Claymore kick, and he misses that, and he sells that. It's something which is so lost because, of course, and it makes sense because it's his big move. Yeah. It's the big move in his arsenal. The move that he's won championship with, a big Brock Lesnar with WrestleMania, and he's just missed it. And his face has that look of like, oh my god,
what have I done? Yeah.
And he's just so good at this kind of stuff. I think that we're probably going to see the match in a couple of weeks' time. I don't think it wouldn't make sense for Cody to be out longer than that. One would have to assume that Cody is going to be part of WrestlePalooza. It would just make no sense going into that show without, the first, ESPN pay-per-view in the States and all that kind of stuff, without your current WWE champion as part of the card.
Yeah.
So I think that Cody has to return at some point. If it's not going to be Sunday at Clash, it'll most likely be in America when they're back in the States on SmackDown.
Yeah, you could be right. It certainly could be a vehicle to simply buy time, especially now that Cody's again had a second child. So once again, congratulations to him. We also saw Drew McIntyre not only Randy Orton not only kind of say that, I'll take that on board, but also say explicitly, I didn't do that for Cody. Like, I didn't drop you last week for Cody. So again, kind of leans into that. I appreciate what you're saying there, Lucas, about the risk of turning Randy heel. I do wonder if a year ago it might have been, even though he was just as beloved this time last year, I think Cody was stronger as a babyface this time last year. So maybe you're right. Maybe it would be too risky and people would basically be cheering him battering Cody Rhodes, even if the audience tried to, if the commentators try and sell it otherwise. Andy, what are your thoughts on this, mate? Is it simply a stepping stone that kind of goes a week or two, or does it go much longer? And what were your thoughts of the kind of back and forth between the two in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a filler for both guys, but not in a bad way, because they're both very professional and they're both upper echelons of the roster as well. So you're getting two big guys going against each other. We've seen it, a few times, but it doesn't make it, they've found a way to make it relevant. And at the moment, Cody's had his second child. He's over in Australia filming Street Fighter. Like, he's a busy guy. Like, he's, got all this extra stuff that he's got going on. And it's a great way to fill that void that he's leaving behind. Plus, quite frankly, everyone was complaining the last time we were getting too much Cody Rhodes. So this time, giving him almost the Roman treatment of take him away for a little while, and hopefully the crowd will respond when he comes back. I would presume these guys could have a match at WrestlePalooza and Cody comes back during it to make a save for Randy or something. And, that's where you can go if you want Randy to go, I don't need you saving me. Like, I'm your mentor. Like, you need to put some respect on it, and I don't need saving from anyone. You go from there. Like, that seems to be the most natural way of doing it. And it doesn't, WWE, we've said a few times, don't do these kind of cartoonish black and white villains and heroes anymore. It's more of a case of there's got to be a wrinkle there. So Randy kind of being a little bit embarrassed that someone saved him makes sense to kind of push him away from Cody. So maybe that's the way they do it. I just think it's evident as well. Randy's enjoying just being in the ring and interacting with these audiences. And I think there was a big spell where he wasn't doing that. So, if Matt Riddle did nothing else, at least he gave us a fun Randy Orton match. So I do appreciate that. It's fine. Like, the promo stuff, they're two very good guys on the mic. Drew McIntyre, as Lucas says, got loads of little things, like the fact he was coming out looking for Randy Orton in case he was hiding under the ring, or asking Michael Cole. And it's stuff that like that makes him a bit more realistic to audience watching, going, oh, okay, like Kevin Owens, you actually think about these things rather than I'm just going to go down the corridor and just wait to get attacked from behind or something. So like little bits like that, I think puts these guys, they can cool their jets a little bit while not being too far removed from a title shot at Cody at any point, so they can pull the trigger on that. So I think it's a really good spot for them to be in, just to kind of burn a few weeks until they decide which way they're going.
Yeah, I agree. It's much like the John Cena Logan Paul thing. Sometimes you can tell when something is, the kind of transitional feud, if you will, but that's nothing on the guys themselves, and that in itself can be a fun one. You're not just waiting around, when's this going to end? Tonight I was going into it thinking, oh, so when's Randy showing up? Because of the way Drew played into it. And I think those notes, as you say, that Lucas kind of hit on there about kind of Drew's kind of delivery and his performance and these kind of little nuanced things about him rightly being concerned and shocked and surprised that he missed the Claymore. These are the little kind of touches that show you kind of just a top tier talent between a top tier talent and a rookie, or a veteran and a rookie. So these are the kind of things where you really notice it, because, as you say rightly, it's the small details. They only last a few seconds, but if you take them away, other wrestlers would go for their finisher and just go straight into the next spot. And you do have to let it breathe, even if that breathing is simply a facial cue that you hope a camera picks up on for 1 second. I think it was very, very well executed and well pointed out there by Lucas as well. Aiden says, Andy and Lucas, what do you think was behind Kathy Kelly's head? Did you notice this? I didn't spot it, but Aiden thought he saw something behind her head on the truck. Did any of you pick this up?
No.
I can't see online about it either. I've tried to look for it, but I can't see anyone talking about it. We just wondered if it was one of those kind of little Easter eggs they keep seeming to plug into backstage segments. Kevin Kenny is in the house. Says hi. Hope you're doing well, Kenny. Kevin, I should say. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let us know what you thought of SmackDown overall, and we are right on the kind of road to Clash in Paris now. Again, later on tonight, we're also going to have a stream where we break down Clash in Paris and predict it. Christopher Leclerc also says Randy Orton is signed with WWE through to 2029, so he will be 54, an incredible age to reach when he's still performing so impressively and still so over as well. So yeah, props to Randy Orton and all he continues to do in WWE. As Andy said, he really did get a shot in the arm when it came to him and that tag team with Matt Riddle. So it's something that we've benefited from essentially. Next up, we saw the WWE Tag Team Championships #1 contenders match. Now, last week on the Dublin stream, myself and Lucas were debating whether or not we were getting that turn between The Miz and Carmelo Hayes. If we did, who would turn? Who would end up being the face? Who would be the heel? We still didn't. We didn't get that, but we kind of got the seeds towards it, maybe because we got The Miz being distracted by the Wyatt Six. Now, the Wyatt Six made their presence in the form of Uncle Howdy or Bo Dallas, whatever you want to call him, showing up in both backstage segments with both opposite teams, basically kind of with some cryptic chat and saying, watch out for the Wyatt Six, essentially. But weirdly enough, costs Melo Don't Miz the match, only to give a match to the Street Profits, which I don't know where we're going with that. I mean, they got their title match at Clash, and that's cool. We're going to have a 6th match. If I'm honest, I would have preferred to see the other match take place, Melo Don't Miz, because I think there's an interesting story brewing there. Of course, talking about stories brewing, we've got the Street Profits with seeds being planted there as well. I think they're playing into the rumors. We saw, again, Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, basically say, you guys aren't blood, and you'll notice that you're not really brothers, and we're not really a family. So there's a lot kind of going on here. We didn't quite get the explosion to any of those kind of twists and turns, but the seeds are certainly planted on both sides. What did you think of the match overall, and what did you think of the result? Leading over to you, Lucas, first of all.
Yes, this is interesting because obviously I would credit them actually on coming up with a interesting way to get the 6th match onto the card, as obviously we've gone, and it's something which obviously going forward, no, obviously this was in Lyon, they were going to be in Paris on Sunday, but it is something which they should be doing more of. We should be seeing more kind of these quote-unquote kind of spontaneous kind of match setups and stuff. But it's interesting with the title, because is this going to be the start of a feud, or is it going to be like a one and done and then they move on to someone else? It does feel like it, and I guess only from the segments for tonight, is it going to be Bo Dallas's, kind of tactic to try and plant seeds in all the different tag teams' heads, to question whether they can obviously beat the Wyatt Six, as he did obviously both backstage segments. I think although yes, I would maybe have liked to have seen Wyatt's against Miz and Melo. I can see maybe why they didn't, because obviously Miz did spend a lot of time feuding with the Wyatts previously, so potentially they decided to go another direction. It'd be interesting, I think as well, with there also being B-Fab with the Street Profits, that will naturally give Nikki Cross something to do, in this contest. I think it was an interesting way to set up the match. The match was actually pretty good as well. I think the Miz is really working like doubly extra hard, like in this, to obviously make this work. He'll make anything work, though. That's the thing. He'll make anything work. He's a grifter. I think that the match was solid, and the weakness of the distraction will be interesting, because it was just a case of Wyatt's were there, Miz looked, and then got knocked off the apron. So it'll be interesting seeing how Melo acts to this, and I kind of hope they keep them together and then build up to an actual proper turn.
Yeah.
But I do get a feeling they may try a rush job and just obviously go straight into the singles feud off the back of this. But I would think that it's gone down quite well, the tag team, I felt. And the SmackDown tag division obviously has been quite strong this year. So having another team like these two involved, I think is only good, particularly obviously the Miz's experience of being on the main roster. But yeah, no, I thought everything here was fine. And I think it's just, again, like it's a smart way to get that 6th match onto the card, as it's been desperately needing this kind of stuff. Sometimes we're sitting there on the go-home show just kind of knowing we're only getting those 5. But this time it was a nice way. I don't even think they announced it beforehand. It was for the...
No, they didn't until the winner was announced. That's when they actually said, "Oh, by the way, it's at Clash." So yeah, pleasant surprise. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it was a fun match, and I'm with you also in kind of not rushing it, because I think it's actually getting over. You mentioned the stacked tag division. I mean, really, they could have done with them on Raw, right? But look, they're on SmackDown. They're doing well. They're getting good receptions. The fans in France seem to love them. I think that's expected, because Miz is kind of in a portion of his career where he's just getting a lot of love and appreciation as well. And I think it is working. As well, there is that kind of history with the Wyatts, which I think is why they can kind of get away with the Miz being distracted the way he was, because he was kind of transfixed on it. But all in all, again, very entertaining. I do have to give a shout out to both Montez Ford and Carmelo Hayes with a beautiful series of frog splashes. Montez all the time, of course, is trying to hit the big one, but I think Carmelo's arguably was even better tonight. So really, really cool bit of action between the two of them. Andy, what are your thoughts, mate, on the match overall, the result, and what it means for the future?
Yeah, my opinion watching it was, I think it's a bit messy, to be honest. There's a bit of confusion over what they're doing here, not in like a horrific way, but the sort of dynamics of it is, who are we supposed to be rooting for here? Because traditionally the Street Profits have been the good guys. I know they had a little bit of a heel turn, but they were too cool to be heels, so they were kind of like, it quickly changed back. There's been a lot of social media support for Carmelo Hayes in terms of like pushing him to get some more stuff. Well, he's getting some more stuff now, and as you say, he's getting good receptions, and so is Miz. And then the Wyatt Six, who I thought till now have got a pretty good reception, but then they're distracting people. The Street Profits taking advantage of a distraction, and then the Wyatt Six are they for good? Are they evil? Are they kind of neutral? Like it's for me, it's just missing a focal point of who are we supposed to be rooting for, because I've always considered wrestling is like you need to give me someone or something to root for to get invested in a match and a feud. Now here, I'm a bit confused as to who do I go for, because I liked him on NXT, so I kind of want Carmelo Hayes to do well out of this. And I think Miz is doing his best to kind of push it up. He originally attached himself as, I'm going to attach myself to someone who is on the up, and it will help me as well. And that's the impression I got from that. Now it's does he legitimately care and he actually wants to do well, or is he just going to be the Miz at the end of the day? Lots of questions, but it doesn't make me want to root for them. So yeah, a little bit confusing. The Bo Dallas stuff I even found a little bit weird. Like we haven't seen him out of his his Uncle Howdy get up. Dom might be able to tell you a little bit more if when he joins over the weekend. If he does, then I haven't seen him as Bo Dallas for a long time now. So just randomly getting that dropped in was a bit strange, and him playing mental game gymnastics with people to try and poison it. It feels like, yes, maybe we're going to get the Miz and Carmelo break up, but then we actually get the Street Profits break up. Maybe that's the direction they're going, is a bit of a sort of misdirection, and they've been drip feeding it for a little while. So maybe that's what they're trying to get out of this, but it just feels like you need to give a good guy in this, or a face, for us to get behind.
Yeah, I think even in the past few weeks, it's been similar again with the Street Profits. I can't remember who they were facing a little while back. I remember being on the stream and saying the same thing of like, are we meant to cheer him? Like, are the bad guys again? It was a bit confusing because it just wasn't.
Face as well.
Yeah, but they also, all three teams, I think, have an argument for being heel and babyface. I think there's a reshuffle. There must be a reshuffle going on. I think at the moment it looks like to me that Miz and Mello, because they are the ones that are the most intriguing, might be the best coming out of this as the clear baby faces. If they don't pull the trigger on the turn between either one of them and they commit to it, then that would make kind of sense. And kind of keep the baby faces as Street Profits as baby face and take them out of that, and a different storyline. And then you've got the Wyatts maybe keep as heels doing dastardly stuff, but people want to cheer them as well. So it's a really confusing kind of, I guess, messy situation, as Andy says. It's been a great year for the SmackDown Tag Team division, but there has been a few times where the overlaps have been just a little bit kind of not great storyline wise. In ring, fantastic, and what these guys have been given as far as TV time and making it work, brilliant as well. But direction has been a little bit kind of missing, I think is fair to say, on some of these storylines. But again, this is maybe where we start twisting into a clear direction maybe next week, now that we come out of this, because something's got to happen, right, with Miz and Miller going forward, and the Wyatts, even though they aren't in this match. They might even interfere at Clash. Again, speaking of Clash, we're going to have our big weekend kickoff stream later on as well, so stay tuned for that on this channel. The Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel is where it's at for previews, reviews, and watch-alongs, especially of these European shows as well. So thank you to everyone that joined us on that. On the SmackDown watch-along, we had a big moment to celebrate, and that was the winning of the US title by Mr. Sami Zayn. We said it earlier on, he was very, very confident and he was feeling good about things. And so he should, apparently, because he did walk out with US gold at the kind of cost of Solo Sikoa. Now, I've got to be honest, it's not something I wanted to see. I'm not annoyed I saw it, because I like seeing big moments and I like Sami Zayn. But we touched on it a little bit earlier on. For me, I just wanted to win the world title, so I hope this would play into a story that led towards that. It hasn't done, unless he's kind of screwed out of this title or something like that, and he needs revenge and kind of goes for something bigger in the end. But we've seen him around this kind of level for a long time. We don't need to keep seeing it. Solo doesn't need it as much. He's not going to be damaged because he's lost it. I feel like a month or two ago he was more at risk, and I think he's reinvented himself in the MFTs very well. So he doesn't need the US gold himself. But like I say, Sami didn't need it either. Was this simply giving the fans in Leon a big moment, as myself and Andy alluded to earlier on? A great crowd tonight, great last year for Backlash and SmackDown back in May. And they got rewarded at least tonight with a big moment to cheer for as well. Fun match. It was your typical shenanigans with the Bloodline and Bloodline adjacent storylines that we seem to get, where it's kind of all over the place, but it is what it is. They did it in a kind of smart way, really, to take away the MFTs, considering that they would have had an extra man if they were just fighting on the outside. So it would have been a little bit weird if they kind of messed up there. So them being distracted and fighting to the back, I think, was the best thing to do if you weren't going to bring someone in to kind of even up things or kind of join either side or anything like that. What do you think, Andy? Let's throw it to you first of all on this one, about the title change and about what this means for this kind of mega storyline going forward. I know you said a few streams back that we're possibly going to get back to Bloodline versus Bloodline at War Games. Even if we don't get there, I mean, we're full force into it at the moment. Minus Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, that's the feud we've already got. And now it's resulted in a title change in hands as well. So what are your thoughts in this kind of storyline we're getting at the moment?
Yeah, I think there might be something bigger at play for two reasons. I think one, getting the US title on Sami. Am I right in thinking is that his first US title? And this is why he's set up for the Grand Slam. So I think that might be why, is to kind of position him there, because from what they've drip fed through the last kind of couple of months was Sami is going to win a world title. That's what his line has been, and he will do it. So it does feel like this is just moving him into that position where he will go down as a Grand Slam champion, which is, if it happens, is crazy, because if John Cena's not won and Sami Zayn is, Jesus, okay. And that's nothing against Sami Zayn, but wow, okay. And I also think he might be a sort of transitional champion where it's moving it ready for who the next person is, because Sami Zayn can tell a great story against someone. So I do feel like maybe it's just the time of getting everything in place for the next stuff that's to come, and it makes most sense to have it on Sami. I will also say there's a reason why Sami Zayn won tonight.
Go on.
On Monday, he was spotted at St. James's Park wearing a Newcastle United shirt.
And a nice shirt at that, I got to say.
Yeah, 96, 97 home shirt.
The only thing I've seen from that game is that picture, because I was
That's
doing,
everything you need to know.
I know, I was doing the live
Let's move on
stream
very
for Raw,
quickly.
and there were comments coming in about the score, and I was like, and obviously as an Arsenal fan, I want Liverpool to drop points as much as possible, and hearing that you guys were down to 10 men, I was devastated. And then hearing you come back to 2-2, and then there was 9 minutes added on, I was like, what? And then they won last minute. But look, we won't dive into it too much, because I can see your eyes are
you got that beautiful moment of Pac and Sami Zayn wearing Newcastle United shirts. That's all that needs to be talked about.
That's all that matters.
Wrestling adjacent, it's fine. We'll move on.
3 points. That's the 3 points already for you.
Yeah.
Talking about picking up victories and stuff like that, though. Charlotte Leclerc. I was going to say Charles Leclerc, like the Formula One racer. Christopher Leclerc. I've never made that mistake for you, Christopher. You've been commenting on the channel for a long time, but it's the first time I've accidentally called you Charles Leclerc. I'm sure you've heard it before. Solo held the US title for 62 days, says Christopher. Not the longest title reign, but I think one that at least did its job to kind of bring him back to the level he needed to be. I guess an argument could be made that if he went to about 90 days, that would have done the job even more so. But look, they've given the title to Sami, and as you rightly pointed out, Andy, him becoming a Triple Crown is a very real possibility if he wins the world title as well. Not a Triple Crown. What is it? Is it Triple Crown? Is that what I'm saying? Yeah, I was confusing my terms there. But yeah, I think that makes sense. Getting that in means that when he wins the title, there's that.
Oh, sorry, Grand Slam.
Slam, yeah.
Triple Crown, I think. Is the Triple Crown the US, the Intercontinental, and the World title?
Wasn't it the World and the IC and the Tag title?
Oh, possibly.
Anyway, let's
change.
I mean, it definitely changed now. Let's bring Lucas back into the fold as well. Again, we've just been touching on Sami Zayn's victory. Not one that I think was needed, but still a good moment for the fans in Leon, and a good moment for us as well. Just simply as a wrestling fan watching the show, it's always nice to get a kind of a victory like that as well. Lucas, what are your thoughts on the MFT's leader losing the gold?
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to give back to Leon from last year. It's not really needed, but if the Grand Slam discussion is coming into thing again, it makes sense. They were going through a phase where they were trying to update. It seems they're going through this phase last year where they're trying to update a lot of the old records.
Yeah.
Obviously, hasn't been a Grand Slam champ for a little bit. By the way, Triple Crown was the World Tag and the mid-card belt.
Yeah.
So the belt in the day.
I went back to the 90s for a minute. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. If we were to exclude Shawn Michaels' daft return to wrestling at Crown Jewel 2018, Shawn Michaels would remain the only true Grand Slam champion, as the only person to win every single belt that he was eligible for while in the company. Other people obviously he never won the Universal title, even though he would have been eligible to win it.
Wow, what a stat. I like that. I like it, but I also hate the fact it's true. But
yeah, but obviously they want to obviously update these records, it seems. Now, it's an interesting one because it does feel a bit like Solo potentially was just a traditional champion in this regards. Because obviously all we did was feud with the person who he beat the belt, he beat to win the belt, and then lost it straight away to the first person. that came barking for it the next week. This makes sense as well because feeding into the bigger story with Sami, where it does seem likely that he is going to be favourite to win the Rumble in Saudi in January, and then potentially win the world title at WrestleMania. But it also fits into the bigger story this year of SmackDown, where obviously he refused to go to SmackDown for a guaranteed World Championship match earlier this year. So I think if he was to come to SmackDown this time round and not get success kind of off the bat, it would make him look very, very stupid. So I think at least they've kind of covered their asses that way of being like, well, at least he's come over to SmackDown now, he's won a belt. And I think, it might be the stepping stone in order to get him seen in contention for it. But also, congrats for them this week as well for not having to set up the main event during a 25-minute promo segment. I think that was... It's always a nice touch when you just have that's the main event, it's sorted. Yeah. We don't need to do the long setup beforehand. It felt like it was a big main event, to be fair. Obviously, MFTs, Bloodline Light, we're going to call them, they I think they did a smart job of getting rid of them kind of halfway through the match and letting the last 10 minutes just be the two wrestlers, but you know, the match essentially. And I guess particularly with Solo losing, it's a way that he loses without losing face too much, I guess, because like, you know, you guys weren't there for me. And it'll be interesting seeing where that goes going forward. I'm guessing there will be a rematch, as always is with the Bloodline peeps. But yeah, no, I thought it was a decent way to end the show, personally.
Yeah, very good. I think overall it was a fun show. I think the ending really kind of helped. Even if it's not maybe what I would have booked, I'm still glad it happened because it was fun. I did say on the watch along, it felt odd pacing wise at the beginning, but I think the second half it really made up for that, which I think is probably the reverse of what could be said about last week, because the second half's pacing last week was, although entertaining, crazy. A very different show to what we saw in Dublin, but still a fun European tour so far. It doesn't stop here though. We've got Clash in Paris this weekend as well, and then Raw hosts Paris hosts Raw, even I should say, on Monday night. We're going to be covering that in depth on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, but you have been watching our instant reaction review to Friday Night SmackDown. We're also going to have a weekend kickoff show. WWE aren't doing a kickoff themselves, so don't worry, we got you covered. We're going to break down the card in detail in just a bit on this channel as well. Before we do, and before we get out of here, I'm going to throw it over to Lucas and Andy to see what they would rate tonight's show overall. So, Andy, let's go with you first of all, mate.
Oh, what are we doing out of 5?
Let's do out of 10.
Out of 10. I think that the crowd gives it a little bit extra, so I'm going to go 7.5 to 8 out of 10.
Okay, nice. I'd go for a solid 7 myself. I think 6 for me is always good show. 7 brings because it weren't the most spectacular show. I don't think it's going to be one that'll be remembered for a long time, other than what happened at the end and the audience. So that's where my kind of points start to come up from there. Maybe 7.5 is a fair shout, actually. Lucas, what are your thoughts, mate? Do you kind of align with me and Andy?
I do, actually. I think it was an interesting break in the format as well, and it'd be interesting seeing if they do this kind of thing again when they have a next kind of weekend of shows somewhere. Because I like the whole idea of, obviously they set up a match, for Clash, in the location. So obviously you have the tag title match, so the number 10 match. Then they earn the title shot on the Sunday. I think that's a good way of, using the fact that you've got fans there, though, that are paying a lot of money now to be there as well. So it's nice that they get a kind of they're there kind of quote unquote exclusive kind of thing. I think it's a good way. Having the title change at the end, I think made sense. I did think something going forward to Raw. I did a feeling like AJ might win the belt on Raw. I guess both things could happen because it's wrestling, and there's only so much things you can actually do. But I think it's a good way of giving the fans that moment that's needed. So I think, all in all, it could be, as much as, yes, it's not going to be memorable in the sense of like, oh, go back and watch this. It could be memorable in the sense of this is the turning point for how they do the kind of go-home shows and try and make them a bit more interesting. Because we've seen some, let's be real, we've seen some very, very poor go-home shows this past year.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, do you not even care about the pay-per-view on Sunday? Like, we're just having random interference in every match and stuff. But I think there's definitely more to come from a lot of this stuff. Like, I think we need to see more from Men and Miz. We need to see definitely more from the US title picture for the women, and definitely more from the tag title feud. So I think it's one of those where it's not groundbreaking in that there was this big return, this big moment, but I think it was a big moment in terms of the title change, I guess. But I think it's one of those where a few weeks down the line, I think it will be. That makes sense. It's setting up a lot of stuff coming forward. So I'd say yes, 7.5.
No, I get that. I think that's a fair rating, and as you say, it might be one that at least in the kind of coming weeks will be a kind of marker for kind of storylines and stuff like that as well. And talking of more to come, as I say, we're going to have our weekend kickoff show for Clash in Paris, and then on Sunday we're going to hit you with our build-up show, getting you in the mood and hyped up for that. Very rare on this channel do we have the opportunity to do a watch-along for a PLE, so we're going to be doing that as well for Clash in Paris, and then we're going to hit you with an instant reaction review for that show as well, just like we've been doing here for SmackDown. All right, so that was our SmackDown instant reaction review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're hyped up and ready for the PLE. We are 1 hour and 17 minutes away from Clash in Paris kicking off. A show that I'm very much looking forward to. It's a fun card. I do think it's going to be one that is maybe going to throw up a few more kind of stories and bits of storyline progression than we maybe expected. I think this card is quite a kind of canon one, if you will. I said on the earlier streams that we were showing there as well that sometimes these shows are kind of almost glorified house shows when they do these international PLEs, as fun as they can be and as a great opportunity is for the fans in attendance. It can kind of not really feature too much storyline progression. But if we're trusting Clash as a title, Clash at the Castle, the first one, which I've said before, we were very privileged enough to be in attendance for in Cardiff. That had a lot of storyline progression, a lot of big moments. Dominic Mysterio turned on his dad and joined the Judgment Day, which he's still part of. What else did we get? We got the debut of Solo Sikoa, who is still very much a big part of the roster as well. So big twists and turns there. And of course, last year we saw CM Punk screwing Drew McIntyre out of the title. This year wouldn't it be something if Drew McIntyre screwed CM Punk out of the title? But CM Punk's already been screwed last month, and I think he's kind of moved away from the Drew McIntyre storyline just now. It looks like it's well and truly about him and Seth Rollins. Well, you'd think that, right, if it wasn't a fatal four-way, but that's what we're getting tonight. And I got to say, guys, I don't think we will get a changing of a title in this match for that reason. I really do think that the Fatal 4-Way match is a simple way to kind of create some shenanigans and keep the title on Seth freaking Rollins. It'd be a bit weird to me if after all that work, that kind of amazing ruse that they managed to pull off, that they then took the title away from Seth Rollins that quickly and gave it to CM Punk. You could say, well, they took it off of CM Punk even quicker. But yeah, I mean, that was because of the moment, Jey Uso, I don't think really has a chance in this either. I think he's here to make up the numbers. LA Knight's an interesting one, but again, I just don't picture him winning the title in this match. But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think is going to happen tonight? What match are you most looking forward to as well? It's going to be, again, a fun show, in my opinion. We're also going to have, after the stream tonight, we're going to have an instant reaction review for Clash in Paris. But we're also very excited to announce that we will be having a watch-along for the show as well. We don't often get to do this. So from about an hour from where we're at the moment, guys, we are also going to have a watch-along experience for Clash in Paris as well. The stream is already live on the channel, so stick with us on the build-up show up until that point. We'll take you all the way up to that show itself, and then switch over with us essentially to the watch-along to experience the show with us as well. We'll be your kind of play-by-play analysis alongside it. I mentioned earlier on the venue that Clash is using. Amazing venue. And it looks incredible as far as the facilities that WWE can take advantage of. And it looks like they've done that. They've got a huge stage. If you haven't seen it already, it's on the countdown at the moment. So hopefully you're watching us alongside that as well. If you are watching the countdown, keep us with you. And it's a huge stage, as I say. And they've also got a Eiffel Tower in the middle, which I didn't expect. And a lot of people comparing it to not quite WrestleMania, but saying it's how refreshing it is to see that it's not just WrestleMania that gets a kind of unique stage and setup. So yeah, really looking forward to how that kind of appears on the show as well. Let's get to some more of these kind of matches and talk predictions and stuff like that. Thank you to everyone that joined us on the weekend kickoff show last night, by the way. Really appreciate those that have tuned back in for this as well. So some of you might hear some of the same comments here, because I'm probably going to stick with some of my original predictions, although I just actually put my predictions into a group that I'm in, like a wrestling WhatsApp group where there's a predictions table as well. And I usually just put in whatever I've done for Rebellious Noise, because my opinion doesn't change that much. But I was kind of finding it hard to commit on some of them last night. So I think I've actually probably changed my mind on some of these. I couldn't quite remember who I went with. So that's probably going to be the case in this one here as well. But let's talk about some of the matches again that we'll see at Clash in Paris this evening. Very surprising to say there is a tag team title match and a sixth match in that as well. Tag team titles obviously around the shoulders, as you can see, of the Wyatt Six. They are going to be putting him on the line against the former champions, the Street Profits. I got to say, I was a bit shocked by that. I thought Melo Don't Miz were going to be in the match, and I didn't think it would even be at Clash in Paris, but we've got it. John Cena is going to face off against Logan Paul. For this one, I think Logan Paul is not going to pick up the win, but I think it's going to be a great moment for him. He's going to look good, and Cena's going to take care of him. Then again, could you say he's going to take care of Cena? You know, he's the young spring chicken kind of flying all over the place, and Cena is kind of getting towards the end, obviously. He's not got many dates left, and that's no knock on John Cena or on kind of getting up there in age, right? I'm feeling a bit of aches and pains in my bones myself, but John Cena pulled off some great matches on this run so far. So I do think it will be interesting to see what Logan Paul can kind of bring out of him as well. As far as victory, as I say, I think John Cena is going to win this one because I just don't see it going to Logan Paul. It's not needed for either, but I think maybe it kind of plays into the possibility of Brock Lesnar showing up. Now, again, we might see the exact same thing we saw at SummerSlam where he shows up at the end of the match, or maybe he costs Cena in a match, actually. And if that's the case, then, yeah, Logan Paul winning makes a lot more sense. But you know what? I don't know if Lesnar's going to show up, so I'm going to go with Cena on that one. Going back to the tag match, because I realized I didn't actually give my prediction for it. I don't think it's going to be new champions. I don't think it makes sense to give the titles back to the Street Profits at this point. I don't really understand what's going on as far as the tag division and who's the face and who's the heel, as we mentioned on the SmackDown stream you would have just watched a moment ago. But still, I'm looking forward to the match itself. Another match I'm really looking forward to, though, is Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed. Saw some really good back and forth between the two on Monday Night Raw, and it really started to heat up. Some great stuff from Bronson as well, as far as like character work goes as well. I think he's really developing. And working with guys like Roman Reigns is only going to help him. Now, I think if this feud goes on beyond tonight, I think he should win the feud. My kind of issue is that I don't think he'll win tonight, though. But then again, even if it doesn't go beyond tonight, maybe you should win tonight. But I still have a feeling that Roman Reigns has kind of been made to look like a bit of a mug in this storyline. And, you know, he's got to get his shoes back, right? So maybe that's what we get here. Or maybe it goes a little bit further, because they were selling that brand new T-shirt with the shooter file around his neck, which apparently they've pulled now because, as I thought when watching it, you know, they're skirting along kind of intellectual property there, right? So apparently they've pulled it and they've just kept the tribal thief graphic on there instead. So we'll see if that's really the case and whether or not he continues to wear it. But look, I think it's been great what Bronson's been doing lately, and I've really enjoyed the whole tribal thief stuff. Been quite funny, but Roman maybe needs to, you know, he's been very much kind of, everybody's left me, and yeah, I like Jay as well now, and you know, kind of a little bit down on his luck, right, and kind of have to have a bit of humble pie. I think he's got to look strong, to be honest. So yeah, maybe if this is going to go further and there's an opportunity for Bronson to pick up the win, then I'm not really against Roman Reigns winning here. So I kind of feel like that's probably what they're going to do with this one. Also, we've got Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch. You would have seen when I was doing my Raw review, I was actually really looking forward to this match, but my kind of opinion has changed a little bit now. I'm not as excited about it as I once was because of that weird promo the two of them had on Monday Night Raw. It just didn't hit for me. It was a little bit uncomfortable in several ways, really. But that is the match we've got. And again, before that promo, I was actually really looking forward to it and seeing where they could go. And therefore, I'm sure that excitement will come back once the match gets underway. I think they probably will deliver. Who will get the gold, though? Will it be Becky Lynch walking away as champion still? She's had it for a few months now. Or would it be going over to Nikki Bella? Now, sometimes I think when there's a new title, there is a temptation to stack up the history books. I don't know if that's going to be the case here, but I think Nikki Bella could be doing it on this run. And before I bring in Lucas, let's quickly wrap up with this card here. We got the good old-fashioned Donnybrook match between Rusev and Sheamus. Now, frustratingly, I'm not massively looking forward to this one just because it's kind of just there. But I like both guys. And it's a good old-fashioned Donnybrook. As much as I laugh about what that means, I can't deny that they're not entertaining, right? So it's just a street fight, a no DQ, or a hardcore match, or an Extreme Rules, however you want to dress it up. A good old-fashioned Donnybrook is just going to have loads of weapons and stuff like that, and I'm all for it. I think it will shake up the card as well. Talking of shaking things up, though, Lucas is now in the house, so let's throw it over to him. How you doing, mate?
Hello there, guys. So yeah, I'm going to be basically your pre-show host for this part. Um, I'm doing very well. Yeah, it feels good to obviously have a pay-per-view at a time where we can watch it and not be too tired, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly. It feels good indeed. And as you mentioned, you're going to be taking over the reins for just a moment here, but I'll be back to kind of see out this stream before we do hand it over to the watch along as well. Once again, we're going to do a watch along for this show tonight. So make sure you stay tuned. The other video stream is up on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel as well. So with that in mind, I will be hopping out and I'll be handing over the reins to Lucas to take you towards Clash in Paris.
Okay there, guys. So I can see your comments, and obviously Scott will he'll be kind of doing some bits kind of behind the scenes, but we are live on the road to Clash in Paris, which begins, I believe, at 8 p.m. You're watching the build up. I'm Lucas, of course. You heard from Scott kind of briefly just there. And yeah, so tonight we are previewing all things Clash in Paris. This is obviously the second PLE that they've done in France following last year's Backlash, which was held at Lyon, or in Lyon, sorry, in the same arena that we obviously saw SmackDown take place in. So I'm gonna just read through some of the see if I can just get up to scratch with some of the more latest comments that I've kind of seen. So obviously there was a lot of discussion. Here we go. So Cody saves Cena. Okay, so this is an interesting one because we did speak about this briefly on our preview show for this, or the post SmackDown kind of talk we had, and it does seem that John Cena is very much heading towards facing Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza, and that Cody Rhodes is potentially. He said Brock comes out. Yeah, and that Cody Rhodes is potentially heading towards facing Drew McIntyre. So, with this being said, I don't know whether Cody would save Cena. I think it would be too soon to kind of get them back together. I think what's more likely to happen, and again, there's numerous dirt sheets that have said this today, but apparently Brock Lesnar is in Paris. I think the most sensible option would be to have Brock Lesnar come out at the end. I don't see why Cody would get involved to save Cena when he's already kind of got a feud ready-made with Drew McIntyre. Obviously, we get some more of your comments. Obviously, a lot about Brock and obviously Cena and people being saved. I see that. And also, that is... I mean, this is the thing, actually, you guys, do you think that will end up being the main event then? Obviously, we have got another match which may be the main event, and that is, of course, the match for the World Heavyweight Championship as Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, LA Knight, and CM Punk back on a fatal four-way. Do we see that potentially as a main event contest? I don't think so. I think the more interesting story, or the bigger story to come out of the show, is definitely the stuff with Cena and Logan Paul. And I'd actually think that even if there wasn't the looming kind of presence of a Brock Lesnar appearance attached to it, I think it's just a more interesting match. I think it will be one of those, and again, we're getting to the last. Cena has 9 dates remaining, including tonight, until he, says goodbye to WWE and by de facto that wrestling. Because I don't think he'll show up in AEW. But that'll be another talking point if he was to do that. But we are getting to the point where, it is 9 matches left. Do they just let him main event? And I'd think that, he's probably big enough to main event even without having the Lesnar thing. But I do think we will see Brock Lesnar afterwards. So just guys, we are live now. I know we had a pre-recorded portion, and that was obviously recorded the other night. We had a SmackDown watch along, and we had a SmackDown kind of post discussion and a bit of a post show kind of preview to this. But this is new live content recording now live at just before 6 p.m. I should be with you for the next hour or so please get all your questions and comments coming in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video to everyone that you know, as we really enjoy doing these streams, particularly when we're able to, as being part of Europe, we're able to watch them at a much more enjoyable time. So I see a funny comment here from Vinny. Lucas, what happened to Sonya Deville in the end? Bit of a funny one, that. Obviously, yeah. There's a nice catchphrase about what happened to Sonya in the end. But Sonya Deville, sadly, no longer with the company. Did she appear in TNA? I get a feeling she did. I don't know. Someone will correct me at some point. Like I said, I will be here until 6 o'clock. I've got a question from Vinny as well about a theme song. About will there ever be a better theme song than War Raiders? I'm glad that thing's back. I must admit. Yeah, I'm glad that thing's back. I think that there's definitely been probably need a whole podcast about the theme songs, to be fair. Comment below if that's something you'd like to see. But I do think there's been a decrease in the quality of theme songs over the past kind of 5 years. But the War Raiders song is one of the better ones, in my opinion. So what else have we got here? Come get on the bow train. And obviously, yeah, I know Scott replied to that earlier. That's from Matt Ball. So the bow train. Yeah, I think obviously on SmackDown we saw Bo Dallas for the first time. I think actually for it, definitely in this new run they've had. We saw him for the first time. I guess I can't say in front of the crowd because he obviously wasn't in front of the crowd. He was obviously backstage. But we did see the first use of him, basically, as this. So yeah, it was interesting in backstage, and yeah, I've always been a big Bo Dallas fan. People who don't know, a little fun fact, maybe not too fun actually, but it's a fact. My background for my iPad is still Bo Dallas Believe. I will never, don't think I'll ever change that, to be honest. But yeah, we are getting close. Well, I'll say we are getting close to the show. Who we got here? Scouse Train God. Thank you for your comments, of course. Wouldn't be surprised if Gunther shows up. Well, I think I would be. I think, obviously, given the fact that he's currently having surgery or due to have surgery and has obviously requested his time off, I think I'd be very kind of surprised if he was to make an appearance. Where would you think he'd show up? Just to answer that question, does he show up as part of the main event? Whichever main event we're going with, whether it be the Cena and Logan match or the Fatal 4-Way, or did he show up in another segment? Please comment. And obviously more discussion on this kind of thing, because it's the first time I'm hearing his name. Coming up, particularly when it comes to this pay-per-view. Just so people know what I've decided to do, because I am kind of sick and tired of the WWE's pre-show stuff. I have on the background, I've decided to put on and just start the first Clash at the Castle, which I did attend, and Scott did also. And we did several kind of videos and interviews and all that kind of stuff. And that was at Cardiff. So this is an interesting one for this event as well. Maybe something we can talk about now. And the fact that this event has now, to date, been in 3 different locations. And funny enough, none of them actually been near a castle. With the exception of, Cardiff was near a castle, but was not in a castle. Yeah, there are some stuff that Scott's done previously. Damien Priest, that was weirdly talking about new Judgment Day members, which, although that was 3 years ago, it's still a topic we are talking about in 2025, as obviously this year we did see Roxanne Perez join the Judgment Day and Liv Morgan obviously take a break from it. And then Bianca Belair, when she was at the time the Raw Women's Champion, and she spoke about working with Triple H again, was obviously she had just come up to the main roster at the time. And then Drew McIntyre, of course, who was local to at least the last one, although they tried to make it out like at this Clash in the Castle, the original one, that he was very close to Wales when, he's a Scotsman. But yeah, check out our channel for more stuff like that. I think we've got some more comments about the Gunther thing from Scouse Train God. Thank you for your comments. Please keep them coming. So I think he would cost CM Punk or attack Seth. So you're thinking very much he can be part of that main event. I think, given your kind of logic there, like I can kind of see that that kind of would make sense, because obviously it's a story, or it's a belt at least, he's been a big part of over, the past year and a half. But I do think we are kind of moving onwards with that. I do actually think there's actually quite a lot of challenges for Seth's championship, going forward, really. So I think that even if, what I am anticipating to happen, spoiler, I guess, is that Seth Rollins will retain tonight. Sorry, I thought I'd put that out there. Even if, by some chance, he does lose, the championship. I think there's definitely, even just amongst those 4 guys, you've got potentially 3 to 4 months of storylines, kind of built in, whatever kind of happens here. And Gunther going back into it is only really going to give you stories you've already done. I guess the only fresh one there is Gunther and LA Knight potentially. But I don't see LA Knight leaving as champion. But thank you for your comment. As always, please keep them coming. Like I said, on the background, I have got the first Clash at the Castle on. And it is for a significant reason. Because believe it or not, the first Clash at the Castle event held in 2022 was the last time Sheamus had a singles match on a PLE. He's since had multi-person matches, I believe for the IC Championship, and he's been obviously in the Royal Rumble match and stuff, but he has not had a one-on-one singles match. So Sheamus, a former WWE champion, you have to admit at this stage he's going to be a guaranteed kind of Hall of Fame superstar, when he decides to retire. He's just obviously signed a very lengthy contract, with the WWE to wrestle into his 50s. So it doesn't look like he'd be kind of retiring anytime soon. But you have to imagine that he's going to end up in that Hall of Fame. But yeah, the last event he had, a singles match at a PLE, was the first Clash at the Castle, and of course he faced Gunther. And yes, to bring it on to tonight, thank you, Scott. I know I can waffle a little bit. But yeah, bring it on tonight, we do have the good old-fashioned Donnybrook match taking place as Sheamus takes on old kind of rival and former tag partner, of course, Rusev, who remembers League of Nations. Put that in the comments if you do, because that's going back some. But yeah, he obviously was part of the first Clash at the Castle. Rusev, of course, was at that point over in AEW. I think, was that mid-gamer gimmick, I think, during that kind of 2022 period. And yeah, we are seeing a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. I believe the 3rd or 4th one. I think they've all involved Sheamus. Sheamus has had. He kind of just gets given anything Irish, I guess. They just go, yeah, you go and do that, I guess. But yeah, they've all involved Sheamus. And yeah, this is no exception. So this does seem to be a street fight with sort of Irish sort of, weapons. I guess there'd be a shillelagh. They'd probably find, I don't know, is there a French or American kind of beer or product that's got a shamrock on? I'm sure that will sponsor the tables in this match, and probably a few advertisements kind of dotted around. But yeah, that's a good old-fashioned. And I heard Scott. I did hear this actually while I was in the waiting room. We had a little waiting pen before Scott lets us in to the dream. I did hear Scott say he's not looking too forward to this, and I actually have to really disagree. This is actually one of the matches I'm looking forward to the most. I think that the crowds in America have actually been quite bad to this feud. I thought their first match they had was an absolute barn burner. I thought it was fantastic, and I felt that the American fans, for whatever reason, just decided to go poop on it. And their second match wasn't as good, and I get that they would do it. The second match had to exist, or in WWE's logic, the second match had to exist, in order to progress the story, to get to this stage. And so they did the typical kind of, overbooked kind of mess that ended up happening. And, but we've got to the stage we're at, and I think it's interesting because it's just nice seeing like a non-title and non-main event as well, you'd argue, because obviously as much as Sheamus is a former WWE champion and Rusev is someone the company should be investing some more time in, they're not at the moment the mainstay guys. So it's nice seeing this kind of match on the pay-per-view. Like, I've made no secret to the fact that I do miss the days of getting more matches on pay-per-views and pre-show matches and some of the funner kind of bits and pieces. And I get that the business has adapted and evolved, but for me, I'm just a bit like, I do like to see some of the more like mid-card kind of stories. I think it's a big part of being a superstar in WWE, and it's nice to see this match kind of take its rightful place on the card. And I think both men will deliver, and I think the European fans and the crowd will be much more receptive to it. I think it's more their type of wrestling. It's two superstars that I think they're going to care about quite a lot, and the French crowds have delivered. Obviously, we're only basing this off Leon so far, but we're hoping that that kind of energy, that vibe, travels through to the French capital, and that tonight at the La Défense Arena, we get like a very good showing from these two. But let us know in the comments, of course, like what matches you're looking forward to. I might just, in the absence of the new comments, I might just scroll up a little bit and see what else you were discussing earlier. I see I'm going right back to the start actually of this. I'm seeing that people were talking about the Wyatt 6 tag match, with this. So I'm guessing someone was saying they put it the Wyatt 6 to win the tag match, and obviously we spoke about this match, by the way, was the last match, well, as of now, added to the PLE. It was added just following Friday's events, which I don't even think they announced the fact that it was a number of contenders match between the Street Profits and Murdoch Miz. But yeah, we are now, Street Profits have obviously won that match, and they are now facing it's Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy, who are the tag champions. So it does seem as well with that have they maybe locked in the fact that only them two are champions and only them two kind of wrestle, because we get to see Rowan wrestle, we get to see Nikki Cross, and we'll also get to see, obviously, Uncle Howdy / Bo Dallas wrestle. So are they kind of locking in that we're not doing a Freebird Raw, we're not doing, as we've seen before with, groups like the New Day, we're just seeing the new kind of incumbent tag team champions. And so it'll be interesting how they utilise the others tonight, as they were all featured on SmackDown this Friday night, including my favourite moment of the week, which was Nikki Cross appearing, flying all the way to Leon to appear on a staircase for 10 seconds. Or was that the week before? Whatever week it was funny when it happened. But yeah, I do like the things. And also we've got a comment here. Someone else said obviously it's the same person that said that Roman Reigns is going to win, Nikki Bella is going to win, Jey Uso is going to walk out as champion. That's a very bold prediction, that last one. I think if we want to, let's actually discuss the Roman Reigns match. Actually, we haven't mentioned the OTC so far. So Roman Reigns obviously is facing the Tribal Thief, as he's known, Bronson Reed, and it does seem like from all the kind of things I'm hearing, that this is a kind of Roman win. And, not many people kind of, in the corner of Bronson Reed with this. And I have to say that, I think this is going to be one of those where it's going to be such a rub for Bronson Reed to kind of be in this program, obviously with someone of the caliber of, Roman Reigns, and that's that level of star power and aura. But it's one of those where I just cannot see them flying Roman Reigns all the way over to Paris to look up at the lights, and if it wasn't going to be to Bronson Reed. So I think we're left with the fact that it's going to be one of those matches where it just kind of happens. I'm anticipating interference, which if there is, I think they need to be very careful with, because I'm also expecting interference in the four-way match, and we've already discussed obviously a potential post-match or a run-in with Brock Lesnar after the show, and the Donnybrook match obviously is no DQ as well. So we're setting ourselves up for a lot of kind of interference, distraction, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we don't OTT all of this. But yeah, I think Roman Reigns is going to win. Nikki Bella is going to win. That was a very bold predict. Well, I think it isn't. It isn't. So we are moving forward to the Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch match then. So Nikki Bella challenging for the Women's IC Championship, held by Becky Lynch. And this is the thing, actually, because obviously I do predictions with some of the DK lads, and I think almost everyone has picked for Becky Lynch to retain. But I don't know, I think this may be the title change we get. Like, I think, I think that they are really, really trying to reward us international viewers, with the best and biggest moments. Because obviously, if they want to continue, my theory of this is, by the way, if they want to continue to sell the tickets for as much as they want to sell them for, and they want to continue kind of doing these 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 days at one location kind of thing, they're going to have to treat the shows like a big deal. And a title change has always been for me like a way of just getting that guaranteed big moment on a show. And so this might be the one they do it with, because she didn't have to hold it long. She could just drop it back on Raw straight away, so that way you get 2 title changes, I guess, in Paris. Or, just drop it back the next month. I think, something which I know I might sound a bit like a hypocrite with this, because I mentioned it the other day on the post-SmackDown discussion. I did say that, they don't need... the women's tag belts have changed quite often. The women's IC, we're only in the second championship reign. Obviously, Becky beat Lyra. But then it also just looked like, just so you know, I did say I am watching the first Clash of the Castle, and someone who's in the ring at the moment, the opening match, by the way, was Damage Control against Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and Bianca Belair. But yeah, obviously, we do have Bayley kind of looking over all this title scene, it seems, and potentially maybe do we even get Bayley tonight, as she's been obviously teasing either a return to an old character or a new character debuting. So yeah, we shall see. And I think we touched on a 4-way match quite enough. I do think the Jey Uso thing, walking out a champion, I don't think that's something we're going to see tonight. I think that is, it's hard. So in a 4-way, I guess maybe should I give my ranking? I guess of where I think it might go, in order of preference. I think Rollins is the definite for me will win. I think if he doesn't win, I think we could see CM Punk win. And that, if I had to give percentages, I'd probably say I'm at 80% Seth Rollins, maybe even 90%. Then maybe 5% for CM Punk, let's say then. And, in the 1s and 2s, basically, for the other 2. I think LA Knight's at least likely to win. I think even Jey Uso thing, I think this is just the kind of final reward, if they hit that little push. And I think they're just stalling time before they inevitably get the Usos back, as a tag team. And then we have a lot of comments, obviously, about John Cena and Logan Paul, Gary Underwood. Cena should win. Best to not be Logan. A lot of people are angry. But I don't know, this match, I know it's a cliche, this, and obviously I'm sat here on a podcast trying to give opinion and trying to say, this and this, but this match could go either way, genuinely, because it's a very difficult one, because Cena's at the point where he doesn't really need the win, and I think usually, under your circumstances, you would say yes, he does need the win, because obviously he just lost the championship last month, and it's looking like Brock Lesnar's back on the trail, and he needs to obviously look strong to face Lesnar. And those things are partly true. But I also say these things are usually truer when you've got a talent which is going to be wanting to do stuff on that roster for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So when these moments happen, you then go, oh, well, this was the turning point. For example, if someone loses Seth Rollins lost tonight, and the next month he then loses to someone really randomly and doesn't win a match again for a few months, it's more noticeable. But with John Cena, we know there is 9 dates left, including tonight, and he's most likely he's not going to be wrestling next year. So him losing a match after losing a championship doesn't really matter in the bigger scheme of things. So yeah, I can see why people are angry with Logan. I think Logan will always have that kind of heat from the IWC, from people. But I'm going to say it, because and maybe there might be some comments about this coming up potentially. But look, Logan Paul, for all intents and purposes, is a full-time superstar. Let's see, M Madman. I think Logan has what it takes for the future, but no way in hell should he ever beat Cena. Wow, so you're getting really angry at this. I think it isn't that deep at this point. John Cena lost to Austin Theory at WrestleMania. John Cena lost to Solo Sikoa. John Cena has lost to multiple versions of Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, etc. I think we're past the stage now where it really matters. Logan Paul, like I said, for all intents and purposes, is a full-time contracted WWE wrestler. He trains at the Performance Center. Yes, there's the kind of running joke and the running comments that obviously even heard from the John Cena promo about how he's only had 23 matches. But the caliber and quality of the matches doesn't lie. Like he is he is very good at this pro wrestling business, and I think that people who think that he's a celebrity that wrestles and shouldn't get opportunities, I think it's just wrong, because he gets opportunities because he draws eyes to the product more than any of the other people who could be in that spot do. Or most of them, at least. Madman, is Cena opening? No order's been kind of confirmed just yet. I was anticipating that this match will become the main event of tonight's broadcast, particularly with the Brock Lesnar stuff looming. And you said, what is our main event? Well, yeah, that's it. What is our main event? If someone from WWE could please confirm this to myself so I can pass it on to Madman, that would be very, very appreciated. But yeah, it's not been confirmed yet. WWE don't really seem to confirm stuff until very last minute, or not at all. So, for example, sometimes they do announce the opening match as part of their pre-show kickoff show, which isn't worth watching, by the way. It's 3 men standing on a desk talking about video packages. At least with this, you're getting the company of myself, and I'm reading your individual comments live here on our build-up class in Paris, France, which does start at about 8 p.m. And I'll be with you for the next 45 minutes, an hour. So if Nikki Bella wins and then Lyra Valkyria can challenge for the Women's IC Championship, yeah, well, this is true. Obviously, that was a big part of the stipulation for their SummerSlam match that obviously Lyra lost. And potentially, I guess you could say, well, it's making that stipulation seem a bit crap. So obviously, yeah, this is in regards to the Women's IC Championship match. Becky Lynch taking on Nikki Bella. This actually might open, actually, being deadly honest. The only thing makes me think that it might not is it is madly, despite the amount of attention that the women's division has kind of had lately. This is the only women's match on the card. Becky and Nikki. So that's the only reason why I think that it may not open. They might look to position it somewhere different. Another reason why I also think there might be a title change in it, because I think if you only have one women's match and it's for a championship, you may as well change the title. But yeah, I think that I don't see Lyra going back into this division. I think personally Lyra could be saved by being drafted over to SmackDown at this point. I think that would be another way of kind of getting out of the situation. The thing is, they created the situation. They could have just not had this stipulation in the first place. Like, if you put that stipulation on, you kind of only wanting one or two things to happen. You either want Becky Lynch to have a very, very long title reign, so that that will leave Lyra without anything to do on Raw, because, let's face it, I can't see her being bumped up to the kind of Women's World Championship division. Or obviously, like I said, do the title change tonight, and then straight away Lyra can obviously be part of that division again, which would negate the reason for doing the match barely a month ago now. But yeah, we shall see what they do. I'm still, at the moment, I'm watching the original Clash in the background, and I've got Alexa Bliss, who obviously is the current women's tag team champion, or one half of them, and we saw that they are potentially going into a feud with Chelsea Green and Sigrid Hervis. And Man, so what have you said? So you said, I've liked Logan more because he genuinely shows up and is honestly a full-time wrestler, but I still don't think he deserves to beat Cena. But we can agree to disagree, it's okay. Yeah, this is the thing, like, I don't want anyone here to feel that, look, whatever I say, whatever Scott says, we have guests like Andy and Dan, etc. Like, what we all say, like, is kind of gospel, and you've got to agree with us. We're not that kind of channel where, like, if you don't agree with us, like, get out kind of thing. But, in my head, I just don't see it as big a deal. And I'm a massive John Cena fan, but I generally don't see it as being a massive deal if he was to lose to Logan Paul tonight, particularly if it is as part of setting up what one would believe would be the WrestlePalooza main event between himself and Brock Lesnar. I'm not sure what else we've had. A lot about like this 4-way, which I'm going to just decide that Scott covered previously. There's a lot of people saying about all the different people kind of winning, and I get that. So I'm going to go to. So I read that comment. So Austin Theory and Sosa Koa. We can't say that word on stream. Sorry, man. I can't say that word on stream. You said that they're basically not nice people. In real life. I think whatever he does outside the company doesn't really matter. I think in terms of like wrestling and what they're seeing the metrics of when he's on television or when he's on a PLE, the numbers go up. And the numbers sadly don't lie. I'm not going to turn to one of those fans quoting this, that, and the other, but I think, the proof is kind of in the pudding with it. So M Mammon, I've liked Logan more. We read that comment already. Sorry, guys. And you said, can we talk about how Alexa Bliss is probably the best women's promo and character work? In my opinion, she should beat Tiffany for the championship. Because Tiffany has kind of disappointed me with her promos in the reign. Yeah, like I can have made it no secret that I'm not the massive Tiffany Stratton fan, and I also think that the SmackDown women's division is it's grisly at the moment. I think they're just they seem to somehow be out of ideas, which to me is bloody bonkers. I think when you've got the talent they've got on the roster with the women is phenomenal, and somehow they're still only utilising barely 5 or 10% of it. It's like, believe it or not, someone who I'm now actually gonna kind of quote and say that they were right is Vince Russo. He just said that he cannot believe that they are struggling with to put Rhea Ripley in anything more than 10 to 20-second segments backstage for about like a month, 6 weeks now. Like, I don't remember the last time she had a match. And she is arguably one of the top 5 most over people in the company. And I'm talking about both genders there, both men and women. She's generally one of the most over people in the company. And she's not been featured in a match or anything really of note. It did seem to push forward a little bit more this past week on Raw, and it seems that obviously we may be setting up kind of Kabuki Warriors against Io and Rhea. I guess they're going to kind of play into the whole form of damage control stuff when it comes to Io, but it does for me feel a bit like a disservice to Rhea. But yeah, in terms of Alexa, so obviously, she is over SmackDown with Charlotte Flair as Women's Tag Champ. And I'm going to be honest and say it may be something they have to look to do, with this, because they've got arguably two of their best women in this tag team. And now I'm so glad this has happened. And I do put a lot of it down to what we saw with the WWE Unreal documentary that recently came out on Netflix. But I think that really painted Charlotte in a very, very good light, and has gotten a lot of people speaking about her. And so, I do think that, the reception that she's getting now is kind of because of that, being deadly honest. But I think it's about time she was getting cheered. But yeah, I don't know if their plan is to move the belt onto Jade Cargill, and maybe just got a bit shook at SummerSlam and decided to wait, a little bit longer. But then it does beg the question, like, if Jay wasn't ready at SummerSlam, or you wasn't ready to do it at SummerSlam, like, are you waiting for WrestlePalooza to do it? But this is the thing, it's not knowing, like, at what point did WrestlePalooza and the ESPN deal and all that stick, like, come into things. Was it before SummerSlam? Was it after SummerSlam? Answer on the back of a postcard, I guess. But I do think that, there's a lot of talent that you need to use more. So Emma Man, you've also said, when you've got both Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green, yet you have neither of them in the title picture, it's just bad booking. Alexa had one of the best runs ever. Wow, you've bolded that. Oh, my Alexa started now. Don't even word that. Anyway, you're saying that Miss Bliss had one of the best runs ever in 2016 to 2018 and hasn't won a main title in 7 years. Yeah, I mean, two of them, she was with child and kind of, dealing with life as a mum. And before that, I think she had had injury, but she was tag champs at one point. Was she tag champs with Asuka at one point? It was totally random. And yeah, like, I think they had called on her a little bit. Particularly once they obviously brought up Rhea Ripley and then Bianca Belair, who this 6-woman tag match is actually really good. I'm watching it in the background from the first Clash at the Castle. Bianca Belair is in action in it. But yeah, they've had... I think when Alexa Bliss got called up, she was one of just a few of the kind of flexible, kind of flippy, kind of acrobatic women. But now there's quite a lot of them, and I think it's been harder to stand out, since then. And you said that, and Madman said you're very excited for WrestlePalooza because you might get Lesnar to see Extreme Rules 2.0. I mean, that's one of my favourite matches, kind of the past kind of 15 years. That obviously it went, in my opinion, kind of the wrong direction from a booking perspective, and this is something which we will look to unravel, because this return we're getting now of Brock Lesnar is kind of similar to the return we got of Brock Lesnar when he returned to wrestling itself in general, way back in 2012, because it has felt like this year. Oh, Scott is back.
Carry on.
Yeah, it has felt that this year, that post WrestleMania, even before WrestleMania, you could argue, because the whole Rock mess and all that, we have somewhat been going into a kind of staleness with the product, particularly with the television. But Brock Lesnar coming back and being that kind of badass that you can't control, and that does his own thing, sings, very much sings it off his own hymn sheet, is the way to go. And this happened similarly in 2012. That the product was arguably in one of the worst states it's ever been in. And Brock Lesnar injected, a big dose of realism, of in-your-faceism that was needed. So, yeah, I see similar comparisons to that. But it's a case of, it does, like we're saying, in terms of for tonight and for next month, like, is Cena losing both matches? Is he winning both matches? Is he losing tonight and beating Brock? Or is he, is he losing tonight and beating, whatever way around you want to work it? But I see a lot of similarities to that 2012 return to this one. But then they have going against them is the fact that in 2012 people were very, very excited to see Brock Lesnar. Again, like, need I remind, there's a whole list of things we probably list that happened in 2011, 2012 that I'm talking some of the worst things to ever be on television. Where, I'm not talking about wrestling, but about any television.
Yeah, some of it was rough. And like you say, him coming back was kind of a breath of fresh air. I think it's different this time, obviously, even though they booked it exactly the same way. Come out, Cena looks confused and get F5'd. Just kind of touching on some of the comments here as well about that. I saw, obviously, talking about the Extreme Rules. And Madman says, as much as people hate it, Brock versus Cena is best for business. I'd argue, I don't think it's best for business. I think it's a tricky thing for business because of the complications surrounding bringing Brock back at the moment. But I do agree that it's a nice little sidestep storyline-wise to kind of keep Cena occupied. And it is entertaining. People will be entertained by it, don't get me wrong. He also said Alexa just got a random tag runs in 2019 to 2025, except her cool storyline with Bray and Randy, which was fantastic, and then sadly, weirdly fizzled out. Lynette's back with us as well. Says, I'm just a little disappointed that Julia did not have a match here in Clash in Paris. Yeah, Julia's not really been used much at all lately. Myself and Lucas were laughing about it on air the other day. And then what do you know? She popped up and then a few days later was there again. So she's a bit like Joe Hendry now, I guess. Say her name and maybe she will appear. But I don't think she'll be appearing on tonight's show. Maybe in a backstage segment or something like that. But yeah, I'm glad she's finally getting used, essentially. M. Madman also says, Julia doesn't even matches on SmackDown. What do you expect? Yeah, exactly that, man. Again, we feel exactly the same way. It's a real shame because her and Stephanie Vaquer came onto the roster at the same time, felt very equal. Stephanie didn't get a title, Julia did, and you thought, oh, Julia's the one they're pushing, and now Stephanie's sort of in the main event title picture as far as the Raw Women's title goes, even though they haven't booked that match yet. And Julia, although she has a title, has kind of stepped backwards. So it's been a little bit of a disappointment there as far as Julia goes. But, the past week or so has shown that they've kind of got something going for her now. And again, if you saw our SmackDown review, you'll know our thoughts on that as well. So again, appreciate these comments coming. But let's just quickly run through the card as we do get close to the show as well. We're about 28 minutes away from it kicking off. At the moment, WWE have their countdown show on as well, and it's the same old story where they're interviewing each other, basically. But this time it's in the middle of the ring, Lucas. So at least there's one kind of interesting thing about it. Again, rushing through this card now because we are getting very close now. And as I mentioned earlier on, we'll also have a watch-along experience. So we want to wrap up this stream soon in order to set up for that one. But we will see a tag team title match tonight between the White Six and Street Profits. As Lucas said earlier on, this is down to the number one contender contendership match that took place on SmackDown, where Miz did sadly miss and didn't get the opportunity. But that's one of the matches you can expect to see tonight. John Cena versus Logan Paul is one that Lucas has been back and forth with some of the guys in the comments about. And again, great comments coming, guys. Keep them coming throughout the night. And hopefully you'll join us for the watch along as well, where we will have a play-by-play analysis of this very match, because it could go either way. Then we've also got the Fatal 4-Way match, and talk about a match that could go either way. Well, this is cliche to say that, right? But I think myself and Lucas have both agreed. This one seems pretty straightforward to us. Seth Rollins is walking out as champion. But hey, we've been surprised before. Who knows? Also, we've got Bronson Reed taking on Roman Reigns. A great opportunity for Bronson Reed to lay a marker down, even if he doesn't pick up the victory. I think he probably should, unless this feud continues beyond tonight, in which case I don't mind Roman looking a little bit stronger again and then giving the win to Bronson to round out the feud. We got Nikki Bella going up against Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, it's a new title, but as Lucas said earlier on, this is the kind of title where it wouldn't be too much of a problem essentially stacking up their history books with names early. So I think giving it to a legend in the making, or a legend, if you will, in Becky Lynch, and then a Hall of Famer already credentialed in that way in Nikki Bella, I think is a good thing for both their CVs and also for the title. Then we've got the good old-fashioned Donnybrook, which is Sheamus versus Rusev. Looking forward to this one just for the kind of craziness that it might bring up. Lucas touched on it earlier on. I mentioned before I jumped off the stream, I wasn't the most excited about this one, and I mean more for its build, but I think the match itself will probably deliver. We've got a few comments coming through here as well, so we'll fire through these before we do kind of leave you on the build-up section of tonight's show and head over to the watch-along experience. M. Madman still with us, says, the only good thing I can remember from Raw in 2012 was Cena's promos against The Rock. That was good, yeah. Cena versus Rock, Lesnar versus Cena, and Punk, and maybe some other things I'm forgetting. I think that's exactly the way I would see it as well. What about you, Lucas?
How much of that stuff came after Lesnar kind of re-debuted, though? That's the thing. They were forced into doing a lot of those things.
It's a bit of a reset, wasn't it?
Rock was announced for a year in advance, and we know all that stuff by now. But well, no, was it? No,
no,
was a year after, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, because obviously Brock Lesnar debuted the night after Cena lost.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania, and obviously, they then built up to the second one the next year. But yeah, how much of that story arc with Cena was done off the back of Lesnar?
Yeah, true. And
which then gave them the in for when Brock Lesnar beat the streak, and then into Brock Lesnar doing the 16 suplexes, match at SummerSlam that year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that started with that. But this time round, what I'm getting at is obviously, the reception to Brock obviously was phenomenal at SummerSlam. And it'll be interesting, though, seeing how that carries on to the arenas. Because obviously, there's a lot of controversy surrounding his return. But it's just how they ride that out. Like, one would assume that he obviously would be booked as very much as a villain here. And then they will do something else. Like I said, I have got on the background the first Clash at the Castle, and I must admit, this Sheamus Gunther match was something.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
It was absolutely fantastic. I think personally, it's probably the best match we've had in the UK.
Yeah, I was just wondering, as you said, that is it the best match I've seen live, and I think it's got to be. And then you're putting it into. I mean, the UK will have Bulldog and Brett. I mean, there is Bulldog and Brett. That's some people's favorite match of all time. So it's in
as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a brilliant match as well.
Yeah,
that's I was at that show as well. But obviously I was much younger.
Would you really? I didn't even know you were at that show.
Yeah.
Wow, mate, that we'll have to get to a podcast about that in the future or something. Roll through a few of these comments before we do wrap up on the build-up show. Again, the idea is to take you all the way up to the show itself, and this time around we're going to hit you with a watch-along, so stay tuned. But Madman says, in my opinion, Judy has more it factor than Stephanie. She needs good booking and her previous haircut back. The latter is optional. Always like to get the fashion opinions on this channel as well. And we love hearing what you're going to eat for the show, guys. Let us know your snacks for this PLE. Lynette says, like I said, I'm going for the White 6 in reference to the tag team title match. Says I'm going to skip on the John Cena Logan Paul as far as predicting. That seems a little bit too tough for Lynette. Cena versus Paul will be a banger, but Madman thinks that Cena will win and also thinks that Seth Rollins will win. Although Lynette, as Lucas pointed out earlier on, is going for Jey Uso. That's a bold prediction right there. I mean, it's probably one of the least likely outcomes in my opinion, but hey, I've been wrong before. Definitely Roman Reigns, Lynette says, on the Ulafala versus Shulafala. And then Madman says it's tricky as well. Lynette, talking about Nikki Bella, says that she's going to take the win and pick up the IC gold, whereas Madman thinks that Becky should win, but does like Nikki as well. So I guess you wouldn't be too offended either way. It's going to be crazy. I don't know who wins, in reference to the Donnybrook matches, Madman. And Lynette says that Sheamus is going to win. Madman also asks in the comments how much time until the show starts. At the moment, we are 22 minutes away from Clash in Paris, but we're just about 7 or so minutes away from our watch along beginning as well. So again, you'll find it on this very channel. We'll get to some of these comments and then we'll wrap up after this. Also, I'm probably not going to be able to watch along because you only have your phone with your Madman. Oh, that's a shame, buddy. Look, what we'll do at the end of the watch along is we're going to have a instant reaction review as well. So it'd be great to have you back on that stream later on and let us know what you thought of the show overall. But enjoy Clash in Paris. And again, we really appreciate you and thank you very, very much for your comments. Super Pinky's in the house says, do you think Nikki Bella asked her sister to do the same way she did in Survivor Series 2014, but just in Clash in Paris? Could we get a bit of Brie mode showing up tonight?
I hope so. It'd be interesting though, because wouldn't that then make the Bellas the heels? It's very confusing.
Yeah, if she was getting beat down or something like that, if she joined the Vision, which would probably happen later on in the night rather than early, then I could kind of see it. I do want to touch on a bit of that Vision speculation later on as well, once we're on the watch along. So if you want to hear our thoughts and predictions on rumours around who might be joining the Vision, then stick with us on the channel. But again, thank you for your comments there, Super Pinky. Snacks says, Madman for the PLE will definite prime because I hate Logan. It just doesn't taste good. You're not hiding how you feel about Logan Paul here, are you, buddy? I would love if they did Brie and Nikki spot again. Yeah, I really thought they were a great little duo, and it'd be nice to see Brie back as well. I'm enjoying what Nikki's doing, so maybe she should have a bit of a longer run on her own before we do that. But either way, it would be nice for Brie as well. As I say, though, we have been your build-up show, bringing you all the way up towards the PLE, as we always do on PLE nights. If you're new here, my name is Scott, and you've also been joined by Lucas. We are from the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and what we like to do is get you guys and us hyped up and in the mood to the PLE. I would like to think we've done a good job because I'm feeling good about Clash in Paris tonight. It's a good card, and again, it's one that's brought up a lot of conversation tonight in the comments, which we really do appreciate. Madman says, kind of crazy and super sad that they don't have AJ in France as far as AJ Styles. He'll be on Raw, yeah, as Lucas says. He is going after the IC strap from Dominic, and I've got a sneaky suspicion he might pick up the victory there. And you've also given me a great opportunity to plug the fact that we will be live for Monday Night Raw doing a watch along as well. It's not often we get to do these. As I say, the build up show is our bread and butter. We kind of get you hyped up in the mood for the PLE, and then we come back for an instant reaction review. But thankfully, the European shows has given us an opportunity to also have a watch along experience for tonight's show as well. So again, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and you'll find it in our YouTube profile. So please make sure once this stream wraps up that you meet us there in just a few minutes time. With that being said, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and I want to say thank you so much to Lucas for holding down the fort earlier on as I popped out as well. It's been a very, very good build-up show indeed, if I do say so myself. But yeah, looking forward to what actually happens at Clash in Paris. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys, and we will see you on the watch along.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.